City of Dayton Parks Commission, May 6th meeting to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call for any changes, additions, deletions to the agenda. Hearing none. Motion to approve the proposed agenda.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Carry a motion. Kai seconding the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, on to the consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the meeting notes from our April meeting.
I'll motion. I'll second.
First by Kai, second by Carrie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, open forum, up to 3 minutes. Does anybody here to speak? Nope. All right, then we'll go on to the council update.
As you are probably all aware, we approved some of the park plans for 21 Ione, and all of Stevens was scrapped. The trees are coming from a local grower. Marty's got the numbers. Most of Stevens was was scrapped because some on the council felt that the plan didn't really align with what council was looking for. Others wanted to wait until after the MSA planning diagram. So
Okay.
that's pretty much anything related to park.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the joint work session. I guess grab a chair. Anything else, Marty?
Just a little. This has come from the last council meeting where the council wanted to have a joint work session to align the vision of the council, the park commission, and the Three Rivers Park District along this trail route. So that's the whole point of the meeting tonight, to get this vision sorted out so everybody's on the same page. So, Kelly?
Yeah, that would be great. So I have like a 15-minute presentation of a little bit of additional background. I don't know if it's helpful to have the park commission up here and the city council at the table, or everyone at the table. I have handouts for everyone, so even if you can't see the screen, you can still follow along. Do you have a preference on how you would like to do the presentation?
Either way, but let's go down to the table. That's
Okay.
going to be the way to do this. Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I didn't want to bring my bag.
Really? No, you didn't shower today, Stephanie. I can tell. So
Listen,
Everyone get a
I
copy of the
did,
presentation?
but then I made these like, you know,
Oh, that's what it
AC
was.
sauce. And it's warm in my house.
Oh,
It's like 80
I was gonna
degrees.
say, did you get a lot of grease or something?
No,
How much is the AC on? Yeah, same.
no, I didn't even turn it. Don't even make it. No, I have the air conditioner. I had it
I hit like 5.
Great. Was everybody able to get a hard copy? So you'll have the presentation. That way, if you don't see it on the screens, you can follow along or take notes. I personally always find it helpful that if you have a question, you're welcome to interrupt me. I'd much rather answer the question than have you maybe distracted or wondering or you forget your question. So we're really here to answer your questions and to be a resource. So feel free to interrupt, ask us questions. I'm Kelly Grisman with Three Rivers Park District. I also have with me Ann Rexine, Stefan Scherson, and Jonathan Lamming. I believe that we at least have at least one property owner that is interested in selling to the Three Rivers Park District. I'm just pointing that out so that everyone in the room knows who's here, and some other residents that live along the river corridor that have been monitoring the project very closely, and a handful of city staff that have been working with Three Rivers Park District. So with that, we have kind of three different kind of chunks of the meeting tonight, and we can certainly pivot and use them, or do whatever works best for you guys. But what we're thinking is we'll do this presentation, make sure we're all on the same page with the background, and then we've got a map exercise, and then we can regroup and have more of a discussion, or it might just naturally, as we're doing the map exercise, the discussion might naturally occur. So with that, here we are. So this is a slide that both the Parks Commission and the City Council have already pretty much seen the material on it. I just switched out the map. It goes through a whole extensive list of plans that talk about the West Mississippi River Regional Trail, or some spin-off of it, because the West Mississippi River Regional Trail is the same trail alignment of the National Mississippi River Trail Corridor, the U.S. Bikeway 45 Trail Corridor, and all different kinds of regional planning. The Mississippi Flyway is part of this corridor as well. Within the City of Dayton, or the City Council has adopted the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the West Mississippi River Regional Trail Long Range Plan, as well as a cooperative agreement regarding the regional trail. So those are the three action items that the Council has previously approved, all again recognizing the regional trail corridor. And then it's my understanding that earlier this year, the City Council went through a really thoughtful strategic planning exercise, and there was, I believe, 4 strategic initiatives that came out of that. I'm only highlighting one of them on this slide, and it's the one that most aligns with the West Mississippi River Regional Trail and the planning work that Three Rivers has been doing along the corridor. And that strategic initiative is to maintain and enhance the natural and rural community connection. And I went through, and everything that seemed like it was a very clear connection to the regional trail planning work, either currently or it could be as we work in partnership with the city to think about what this trail corridor could be or where there's opportunities for partnership, I've simply highlighted. So, for example, there's a continuation and expansion of recreation programming. We currently don't offer any programming in this area at all, but that might be an area where we would work together with the City of Dayton and say, hey, if we've got this great regional trail corridor and we're starting to buy parkland, or maybe we're developing some parkland, maybe we can look at how we might do some recreation programming either by ourselves or in partnership with you to make sure that we're meeting what those regional needs are, as well as working with you to meet what your local needs are, and that we're complementary, not duplicative. So I don't need to speak to you guys about what your strategic plans are, especially since you just recently went through this exercise. I just wanted to include it to kind of recognize that I think there's a lot of overlap that we can work together on, and hopefully we can partner to achieve some of the city's goals. This is a graphic, again, both the Parks Commission and the City Council have previously seen it. It is the regional trail route through the city. What I'm going to really focus in, and what seems to be the crux of the conversation, is the red dashed line in what we'll often refer to as the focus area between Gooden Park and North Diamond Lake Road. And this is what the long-range plan had called out at and said, as opportunities present themselves, property acquisition on a willing seller basis should be considered where construction complications could be alleviated or lessened, and or to create a wider, more scenic regional trail corridor. So that's the area that Three Rivers has started doing some acquisition efforts, and it's certainly happened a lot quicker than anyone anticipated, including Three Rivers, and that's where we would hope to have some conversation today in partnership with you to kind of better understand where those opportunities are, where they might be going, and whether that is still in alignment or still acceptable to the city. I also included, so I guess from here on out, many of the slides start with a question, and as staff have been attending Dayton meetings and talking to your residents, there seems to be some common questions that keep coming up, and I don't know if we've done the best job answering them, so I'm hoping to just take a few minutes today and address them maybe a little bit more appropriately. And this particular question has come up on more than one occasion, and I hope that I hit the nail on the head on this one, but why is more parkland needed? Why now? What makes a community a desirable place to live, work, and play? What makes Dayton a desirable place to live, work, and play? And right on your website, I don't know if you guys refer to these as like your slogan or your taglines, and I know that maybe there's been some disagreement whether everybody buys into these three things, but they're the best that I have to work with as someone that doesn't work for the city and am trying to best understand who you are and what your goals are. And we're right here, a city of beautiful natural resources with convenient proximity to the best of the Twin Cities amenities. And you guys have the Mississippi River right here, and one of our goals is to make sure that that river is protected and that your community members have access to it and that they can enjoy it and appreciate it. We've got roots. To me, when I read this, it is about protecting your rural landscape, protecting your history, and I think there's a way to do that with the preservation of the river corridor, at least pieces of that river corridor, so that not all of Dayton becomes developed into houses, and that there's a way to kind of tie back and honor that heritage. And the third is we play outside, a place rich in opportunity to experience the many parks, trails, and rivers that immerse you in nature. And I think that's a very clear connection to what we're trying to accomplish. But I also think that there's three more things, and it's meet expectations. Dayton is one of the fastest growing communities in the region. Your residents are going to want and will expect safe and convenient access to parks, trails, and open space. And additionally, these amenities will help Dayton compete with neighboring communities. So this trail corridor, however it ends up taking shape, is one of the things that your community members are going to want, they're going to expect, and it's going to make you different than Corcoran, make you different than Rogers, because you will have something unique and different than anybody else in how you connect and honor the Mississippi River. It's also about preserving opportunities. Once property is developed, it's developed forever. It's incredibly difficult and expensive to do anything else with it. When Three Rivers looks at our history, we came about in a time in 1957 and beyond, and we started buying parkland where there was large areas to do so and where it was affordable to do so. What that meant is we were not able to buy and develop parks and trails in the first tier communities. So for the last 15 to 20 years, that's what we've been doing. We've been going and retrofitting these communities that developed without parks and trails front of mind, and I will tell you it is incredibly expensive and impossible to do it after the fact. So while parts of Dayton are developed and there is houses or outbuildings or agriculture, and there's some level of investment and development already there, it is not the same level of complete subdivisions that are houses upon houses upon houses, or what you would see maybe in Maple Grove or in New Hope and the first tier communities. So there is an opportunity to think about what your future holds and how development is happening in Dayton, and how you might want to preserve opportunities in the future. And the third point is balance. There's an opportunity to preserve Dayton's rural landscape while also advancing development and providing ample public access to the river, while also allowing other areas to remain publicly held and meeting the needs of today while also preserving the needs of tomorrow. So I think there's three, in addition to your slogans, three things: meeting expectations of your residents, both your current residents and the residents that are moving into Dayton. There's preserving opportunities, and then there's thinking about the balance of all of the different things that, as a growing community, you guys are really in a difficult position. You have new residents, you have old residents, you have new ways of doing things, you have old ways of doing things, and there isn't going to be a perfect solution. We've also heard a lot of questions or fielded a lot of conversations about road route versus a greenway route. So what's wrong with a road-based route? There's nothing wrong with a road-based route. It will still provide a safe, off-street, multiple-use trail that connects existing parks along the river. And there will still be opportunities to connect people directly to the river. However, it is a less desirable option for most community members and existing trail users. So the pictures that I have on the screen are from the Lake Independence Regional Trail, the south end of Crowhasset and just a little bit west of there along County Road 19. So this is very similar to what the trail would look like in a road-based route along Dayton River Road. And I would very much encourage the Park Commission members as well as the City Council members to go and either walk or drive next to it or bike that regional trail and kind of get that experience, because that's very similar to what a road-based route along Dayton River Road will, or Dayton River Road, will feel like if that's the option that we move forward with. So what's then the flip side, or what's the benefit of a greenway corridor option? The greenway corridor option simply provides a higher degree of amenity. It has a higher level of safety or perceived safety. It's more desirable. It will have a greater number of people using it, and a greater number of people using it of all ages and abilities, and your user satisfaction will be higher. And we have research from our own regional trail surveys that support that, but then there's also state research, there's regional research, and there's national research that will time and time again support all of that information as well. In fact, this is just one little data point from our own research, and this is comparing the Lake Independence Regional Trail that I just spoke about. That's a road-based route. It's still separate from the road, but it's parallel a county road, comparing to the Medicine Lake and the Rush Creek Regional Trail corridors, which are independent regional trail corridors, so it functions very much like a greenway or a linear park. And what this slide shows you is that a road-based route provides you with an average user experience, where these independent trail corridors, these linear parks or greenway corridors, provide you with that above average or that excellent user experience. And in fact, we have, in 2019, when this survey work was done, we had 16 regional trails surveyed, and Lake Independence had the lowest user satisfaction ratings, primarily because of its proximity to the road. And quite frankly, I think everyone in this room has a really broad understanding of that road and can understand that that's maybe not the most desirable road to walk, bike, rollerblade, walk with a stroller or wheelchair, whatever the case may be, right next to. That doesn't mean it can't be done. That doesn't mean it's not safe. It simply means it's a less desirable option. It is still an option, and it still gets you from point A to point B. So what we've presented to both the City Council as well as the Park Commission in the past, so this is not new information, is that the area of interest that we're looking at, so pretty much from the center line or the county line to the road, and then from Gooden Island to North Diamond Lake Road is about 330 acres, and it's about 3.5 miles long. 250 acres, give or take, is already in public ownership, and about 165 acres of those are islands. So those 165 acres are not really publicly accessible to most people. And this slide shows you the public ownership, which I'm not going to go through each kind of breakdown, other than that Three Rivers Park District currently owns 13 parcels totaling 37 acres, and there remains about 30 private parcels totaling 78 acres. We've gotten a lot of questions, and the council, I know, has talked a lot about the local tax revenue if Three Rivers were to acquire all of that. We went through and looked at the 30 remaining privately held parcels, and the estimated local tax revenue is just under $40,000 a year. If you go on Hennepin County's tax or property records and look and add up all the tax stuff, you have to dig a little bit deeper and look specifically at what Dayton is collecting from the tax revenue, not just the very, like, parcel X collects $3,000. For most of these parcels, it's probably closer to $1,000, $1,300 per parcel. So for comparison purposes only, if you looked at the River Hills development and the River Walk development, and you took about 80 acres of those, and you looked at what the local tax revenue was per parcel, and you did the math, the same number of acreage is about $500,000 in local tax revenue. If you looked at agricultural land in this same general area, it's about $2,000 per year of local tax revenue. So again, not trying to sway the council one way or the other, just giving some comparisons and answering the question as to what is that annual local tax loss. On the flip side, how will the trail affect property values? Research has shown time and time again that there's a positive correlation between trails and property value. In general, studies have found that trails along roadways increase property values by 3%, where trails within conservation corridors increase property values by 6%. So that would be the bare minimum. I should say that a road-based route for this project, bare minimum would be 3%. If we do an independent trail corridor, we're at 6%. The city of Dayton doesn't just have option 1 or option 2. It is part of a national trailway and water corridor, which means actually your property value increase is probably over 6%. So while you are losing $40,000 if we were to acquire all of those properties, and I'm not saying we are acquiring all of those properties, the other properties in near proximities are increasing in value at a rate of somewhere between 3 and 6%, or more than 6%. So, are you going to buy the entire river shoreline in the city of Dayton? No. The focus area is 3.5 miles, includes about 30 privately held parcels. For reference, within suburban Hennepin County, the regional trail is about 20 miles long. 6 miles are within Dayton. About 3.5 of those miles are within this focus area, and then 2.5 miles are definitely road-based route. And there's about 45 other parcels within Dayton that are along the river that are completely outside of the project area and will remain privately held. Will private property owners have to sell to Three Rivers or be forced to sell before they are ready? No. We are a willing seller basis only, and we really recommend that that's how we would continue to move forward in any way, shape, or form. This map, just to kind of walk the council and the Parks Commission through what this map shows, is the City Council approved the route and the long-range plan in 2016, and then Three Rivers approved that same information, those same elements, in 2018. So the light yellow are the parcels that were sold between when the city adopted the plans and when Three Rivers adopted the plans. So those were all what you might label as lost opportunities, depending on how you're viewing it. And then the orange or salmon color were properties that were sold after Three Rivers adopted the plans and that Three Rivers did not acquire. So those are other properties, just for plain language, that Three Rivers did not acquire but could have acquired. And then the dark blue are properties that Three Rivers acquired after the plans were adopted by the Park District. So this, again, just shows that there are opportunities for people to buy and sell to whoever they would like to sell to. Excuse me, people can sell to whoever they would like to sell to. So before we go to the map exercise, I just want to pause and see if there's any initial remaining questions or comments, kind of on the background information.
Well, I think we don't seem to be able to get on the same page around this piece of it. What was approved by the city was a trail. You're now referring to it as a greenway corridor. That's a new term, even tonight. And I don't see that on any map anywhere. So what we're talking about as approved is a trail along the river road. It was on one side of the road, it moved to the other side of the road, and now it is on that side of the road. It has been for some time. No trail has been built, except for what the city has built. But you continue to acquire properties and continue on with the notion that this is up to you and the city really just needs to play ball. You just need to explain it to us 4 or 5 more times and we'll get it, and then we'll move along. We're not there.
Thank you.
We're simply not there.
I think that it brings up a great opportunity for us to show the maps, and we'll show the road-based route as well as more of the greenway option. And I'd be happy to go back through the presentation if it's helpful, but I think, as you noted, we've already gone through it 4 or 5 times, so we're going to probably just agree to disagree that how
Well, we won't disagree on this. The city has the right to refuse to allow the sales to the park district.
That's true.
That is state law.
Yes.
So unless we can come to some kind of reasonable arrangement where we can support it, which we do not at this point, the council does not, and you've heard that several times, it's not just me talking, that we're not going to get anywhere.
Okay.
So there needs to be some collaboration here, and it's not happened so far.
Okay. Are we okay if we move to the exercise? Or do people want to continue this
I'd
conversation?
also like to comment on the revenue part. I don't know that revenue's ever been our hang-up. In fact, you, in a way, you said if we would just leave this alone and eventually develop it, we would make a lot more money in revenue. Revenue isn't the linchpin here. And as Dave stated, I think, I did notice that you had mentioned some sort of hybrid in here. I think that's where we're going to end up, but how we get there is, there are some areas where I agree you can't even get a trail by the road. But there are other areas where you easily could. And as Dave stated, that has always been the assumption, was a trail, not a full ownership of all the property.
Yeah.
I'd just like to add a few. So when I'm looking at the data, first off, the fact that the one trail that you mentioned, which is the road-based route from Independence, right? It's still good. Like, it's not below average or bad. Like,
right.
So, and also when you looked at the public comments, engaging with the Mississippi River was actually the least important thing of all of the things. So, like, yes, people want to engage with the river, but that's not their priority by any stretch of the imagination. It's, in fact, the last priority when they were given that list. And you also, in several emails to property owners, explicitly said, and this was your response to a property owner who emailed you very early on in the process with concerns that the trail is going through their property, that we propose the trail adjacent to the road right-of-way. It will, we understand that the majority of the trail's length from Dayton through Champlain and Brooklyn Park have private properties that have property lines running straight to the river, meaning to lessen private property impacts, we propose the trail adjacent to the road right-of-way. So you've been telling people, don't worry about it, it's just going to be a trail next to the road. And then buying properties. So it feels like there have been mixed messages, kind of like the whole time there have been mixed messages. But I'm kind of with, when I went through to look what Dayton agreed to, we agreed to a trail. We didn't agree to another giant park. We agreed to a trail. And when people talk about what they want trails. That was the thing that came up again and again. We want more trails, we want more trails, we want more trails. Not, we need more parks. That was never any of the feedback in any of this was we want more parks. All of the feedback was we want more trails. And that's what we said yes to. So I think we're going to wind up in a compromise situation here. Another thing is, you mentioned multiple times in this packet, wanting to kind of piggyback on work being done by other organizations, and they're about to redo this road. So at a certain point, it feels like we need to move forward with the properties you have so far, because this is your opportunity to do this through redoing the road. So when is the moment where we say, okay, these are the properties we have, we're designing the trail with what we have, and we're moving forward?
Yep.
And I think that's now.
I think some of the maps are going to show that.
Okay.
Good. Ready?
Hello, Council and Park Commission. My name is Stefan Scherson. I'm going to roll out
Could I ask you to pull this?
two maps, very long. I may ask the Commissioner, I'm sorry, the Council member on the corner of the How that can go over there. Can you kind of go along there?
These can overlap for now.
All right, thank you for that. So, obviously, it's a map of the whole corridor from approximately Brockton all the way to North Diamond Lake Road. And this is we have two maps here. One is showing what the trail could be on a road-based type of route. The other one is what we're calling tonight the Greenway route. So let's first look at this map here. On here we've got.
Yeah, please feel free to get up and move.
Yeah, you may need to stand to see this more clearly. Just to explain kind of what you're looking at here, the darker green areas are like they're in the center are the parcels that Three Rivers currently owns. The lighter green areas, like here at Elsie Stevens and Cloquet Overlook, just slightly lighter green, that's the city-owned properties, and also the DNR property is also that same light green color. The maps also show the topography, 2-foot contours. It shows the FEMA floodway, which is this lighter blue line along the river, so you can see where we really can't build. And it also, I've included all the parcels are on here. So as a base map, that's what we're looking at. The purple line represents what the trail could be with what Three Rivers currently owns. Okay, so you can see where the topography is steep along the road and in the properties where it's difficult to build. Areas where there is either city land or Three Rivers property, the trail does meander off into that property and get closer to the river. The trail is designed kind of at still a pretty high level. You see a line, but don't think of the line as being like the alignment, right? This is still a very conceptual line. Maybe it's not 30,000 feet high, but maybe 10,000 feet high. It's considering the existing topography and kind of the path of least resistance for the trail without doing any major grading to accomplish the trail. The actual design engineering of the trail would happen obviously sometime in the future and could look very different. But kind of look at this trail as being kind of as like I said, a path of least resistance and where the trail could be anywhere between that line and the road. Also on the map, you'll see, if you look carefully enough, you'll see some pink areas. Those are areas where we anticipate easements being necessary along the road. There's some parcels that are closer to the road than others. There's other areas where the topography is such where we anticipate needing some sort of easement either for a retaining wall or perhaps a slope easement to be able to get the trail along the road. So you'll see some areas, and there should be some text next to them with approximate area of the size of an easement. Also, you'll see some brown lines in there on occasion where retaining walls are likely to be needed. So that map shows you, today what Three Rivers owns and what the trail could look like with the existing conditions. The other map, and then Kelly has some options to show. The other map, which is all green, is sort of the other extreme. Is in the hypothetical situation where Three Rivers owns all the parcels along the river, and what the sort of ultimate could be if that hypothetical were to happen.
Yeah.
I know we're not talking about that, but I just kind of wanted to show you kind of the two ends of the spectrum, right?
Yeah,
So-
so one of the things the city council in particular has asked time and time again is, where exactly is the trail gonna be? And we've really struggled to answer that question because we're moving forward on a willing seller basis. So the trail, we can't tell you where the trail is going to be until it's time to build the trail, and we know then at that point what land we have to work with. So through this exercise, you can imagine that this road-based route is, hey, if we were gonna build it tomorrow, this is what we could deliver. If we're thinking 50-plus years and something that we're aspiring to, but maybe we'll never fully 100% achieve, this is what it might look like, or parts of it might look like. There was a question about, hey, we need to get our ducks in order, I'm using my own words, because the county has a project coming up in 2029. So the 2029 project, we don't know what the county road project is going to entail or what they're envisioning, but that's our best guess of then where that trail could go and where it would be along the road versus where it would get pulled off. Now, between now and 2029, if additional land comes for sale and the council's supportive of Three Rivers acquiring it, that could change where that line is, right? The other thing that I want to highlight is on this map, we looked at your staging plan and we just penciled in the development pattern through 2040 roughly to show how things are going to change, and at some point all the way from where Stefan is now to roughly right here,
all these
there's not
houses.
really a road right now that I can reference, but between Lawndale and Vicksburg, it's all going to be houses if that staging plan comes to fruition. And so kind of thinking and anticipating what are those community needs going to be, what we haven't identified, and as we move forward, we'd like to know where you guys would want to tie into the trail. So when development's happening, to be thinking about, those neighborhoods are going to want access to the trail. How are they going to cross the county road safely to connect? Because they're going to want to connect. Whether it's a road-based route or something different, those connections are critical, and crossing the county road is going to be challenging.
Like we have here at River Hills.
How would you
Yeah.
assist us with that?
Well, that's a great question, and it kind of depends on where everyone's at and where the trail is at, what our partnership looks like.
I mean, the 10,000-foot level's nice, right? Realistic is somewhere in between these two. So even
Yep.
if we're looking at the first one here,
Yeah,
and
let's-
knowing the staging of the other housing developments coming through, you can see, and you said we need crossings for the people to
Yep.
get there. What would you foresee?
So for the River Hills, the city actually put
Yep.
that responsibility on the developer in anticipation of,
Right.
that actually happened before we had all of our trail work.
We actually didn't put that on them, they volunteered that.
Oh, okay,
And-
well,
and-
we didn't do it,
I think each one of
Right.
these development crossings, or crossings near developments are gonna be unique, and we won't have them figured out until that development happens. And I don't see 2040 happening in here, but that's a different issue.
the 2040, the staging plan doesn't connect to Dayton River Road, it must be like a little bit south of here.
A lot,
It's
away
little-
south.
It's a way
Yeah.
south, but that's a different issue. I think county road crossings, well, There's no way we're gonna plan those today. or-
No.
No, but
No.
we could use their help in the future.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Here's probably one, because.
Yes,
That's theirs,
that's
isn't
their,
it,
yep.
Mark?
That's the
Yep.
Lawndale Trail?
That's,
But even-
Diamond Lake one.
Diamond Lake Trail.
Yeah, but the one coming up Lawndale.
This must be Lawndale already.
This
That's
is
Lawndale right
Lawndale.
there. And see, we're not even gonna know where that guy's at until it actually is put in, but, yeah.
So we've got some concepts, or, I don't know, concepts, bit diagrams that Ann's gonna walk us through to just show maybe some more of like what a hybrid might look like, or how even, and we're not asking the council to adopt this, but how over time, and when I say over time, like I mean like over the course of some of our entire careers, or like 30, 40, 50 years, how things might naturally just evolve towards one direction. Just by the nature of how development happens and how people eventually sell or change ownership.
If you build the trail, development's gonna.
But I was like, I noticed these,
Yeah,
they go
I-
in.
Right.
And at some point, trails have to be redeveloped because they're just like
either way.
roads and they only last so long. And so there's opportunity to tweak and modify.
That was what I was
the bridge,
thinking
but
too,
it
is if
could
we were to
come off
build
the road,
something, I mean, I don't know like what the earliest we could build based on
Curious.
the
why
Yeah,
lower
we're like
thing is
2029
2029.
for that.
So, I mean, like you said, then,
Probably
yeah, if just things change, you can just reevaluate
Yep.
later when they
Have you
change.
done any preliminary engineering on where a trail can't go by the road? Because I think that's gonna drive some of it.
Well,
because-
yeah, there's could be areas where it's going to be steep.
Yep. There's
But
areas where.
there are guidelines that say that, if the trail is, if the road is steeper than 5%, which it might be in some cases here,
yeah.
as long as the trail follows the grade of the trail, follows the grade of the road, it can be steeper than 5%. 5% is sort of the magical number that we strive
I guess
for.
what I'm getting at is there are areas where the drop off from the road is significant.
Would require, it is, so in some of those areas where there's ravines, we might have to build a bridge,
Right.
or might have to build retaining walls, yeah.
But, I mean, I think we feel a little more comfortable knowing that those lots or
Oh.
property entities, you're probably gonna have to acquire them all.
Yeah,
Or
I
at
think
least
those
take them
are what
apart.
are, we've got them labeled with like an easement or a slope fill
There's
or
also some
retaining wall. They are marked on here.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some diamonds, some orange diamonds on the road-based route that does highlight a lot of those difficult areas.
And we can leave these maps at City Hall so you guys can
Sure.
have them and reference and do a deeper dive. Yeah, however you want to.
It would actually be nice to have it up along the wall to.
Yep.
Couple of the
So I'm going to ask Ann just to kind of walk through. We've got 3 different areas just to articulate how change might happen.
So we took a look at the area from this parcel to the one we just acquired, which was the Steinke property. Then we looked at an area in the middle and then at the far end. So I'm going to show you the pieces that we looked at the far end. So if you can't see it, come over when you can. But this is to show you what we could do over time. And we have 3 different scenarios. And it's mainly to show you, too, the complexity of knowing what you can do now versus what you could do in the future should you be able to bend the trail. So here's the DNR property. The trail is shown in the purple. We could run it through the road, adjacent to the road.
And
we own
actually, you know what? Let's start with the road base, like walk them through the road base route and then show them.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, I'll hold that for you. Because then they can see it's,
Okay.
yeah.
So right now, the current road-based route comes through the DNR property right here, and it can go along the road right here. There's a slope easement fill needed right here, a easement for a wall and access to the north needed here along Lawndale. There's a significant wall that's needed all along here.
This is Gooden Park. We have a current plan with the city that we're working on, developing both our parcel in Gooden Park through the water trail plan. So this alignment through here is very realistic. And we're working on that with city staff. Here is a potential underpass with the Diamond Lake Regional Trail that will go somewhere in this area to connect the north side to the south side. And then moving along here east of there, we could sneak it along the road. There would be an easement and a retaining wall here, a retaining wall. This is the piece that we just acquired, and then road base all the way to the east. So if we were to acquire a few more pieces, right? So
And are those highlighted in the black?
yeah, so that would be these two right here, this one right here, and this one right here. So they're kind of outlined and thicker, and they build on each other, right? So again, we're coming along the road-based route. We go up through our property. If we were to acquire this one, we could sneak through here. We could access the river in a more corridor nature, and then come down here. If we were to acquire here, we would have a little bit of flexibility on how we make that turn. Again, going through Gooden Park and through rivers, and then we could be able to negotiate how that comes through these three properties together before it continues on a road-based route. If we were able to so this one is, again, a progression. So again, if we were able to acquire these two pieces next to Steinke, we could again come along the road-based route. I'm kind of going backwards now. Through here, through Gooden Park, this all looks the same, this all looks the same. And then we would, if we were to acquire these two right here, we could again be closer to the river before coming back to a road-based route. So it just shows you there's lots of different ways to
Can you put that one back up real quick? So a question I have is, those two properties to the left there that you would like to acquire, it looks like that trail doesn't actually move farther off the road whether you own those properties or not.
So it's not that big a deal.
Well, it requires an easement for a retaining wall and a fill area and a wall right here. So it does give us a flexibility of putting that retaining wall and acquiring that easement in a way that we have more flexibility if we were to acquire the whole piece.
It has to do with where the houses are. The houses are built right into the slope and it just drops.
But I'm just saying, if you own them, it looks like the trail doesn't actually move very much.
That's true. I think part of it is, if you look at on this plan, you can see if additional, another parcel or two additional beyond what the sketch shows, you could, I think, bring it
Off the road.
off the road.
But you still didn't, even when in your pie in the sky, we own everything, you still didn't. It's still right by the road.
I think well, maybe I'm looking at the wrong spot, but I'm looking.
Those two right there.
Right there.
And
Yes.
even when you own absolutely everything, that trail is still right by
It
the
has
road.
to do with the topography.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I would think then if, whether you own that or not, it's still there, then.
Yeah, the hard part is, and I'm not the expert, Stefan is by far the construction expert. If you can imagine, you've got your road up here, and the houses are sitting down, and everything slopes like this, and now we have to also bench in a trail. Everything just gets steeper and harder in a smaller area. So you might be able to fit that trail in, but you might still have impacts to that house, and without additional engineering, we really can't tell you with 100% confidence, like, yep, nope, everything is gonna be right in the right of way and it's fine, or there's no changes. Anytime you have that amount of topography and it's so close with the house, a little bit of flexibility can go a long way. But yeah, you can be right in the road right away and probably save those houses if you're not accomplishing all that much.
Has there been any discussion with the county in regards to road alignment along that stretch?
Yeah. No, we really are not with the county, and they have their road reconstruction for this part is to be determined. They're really not having, they don't have any plans for anything on this side of Dayton River Road.
The study they're looking at now starts at Vicksburg in the east, so that's outside of the scope of the
Yeah.
current study.
I'm just bringing it up because you're saying it's, you know, it's infeasible because
We're
the
working off of the
difficulty with where
existing
the houses
conditions.
are and what the topography is. Is anybody exploring at all, shifting the road 20 or 30 feet
No.
to the west?
At this point, we're working on the existing conditions, and those conditions might change, especially as development happens. Remember that development in this area is 2050 plus, so we're really not envisioning or anticipating significant changes to the road.
Well,
in
actually,
the
that may
immediate-
permit changes to the road, because it's all ag.
It's all ag. Ag field is cheaper than houses.
Yeah,
By a bucket.
It seems the park has tons of money when it comes to acquiring property. But when it comes to other things, the park
Yeah.
has zero money.
so you're asking us, I sort of missed one sentence, so if you maybe could just reiterate what you're asking me, or
All I'm
proposing?
saying is to Dave's point, is if the problem is, and right now, you have grade problems along the north side of that road. Oh, in significant amounts of areas.
Yeah,
You don't on the south, which is
Oh.
also why some of the city leaders a few years ago were talking about putting it on the south. And most of this is ag land, so it's cheap to move the road.
got it.
If the issue is grade, that's one route to fix it.
Sure.
And again, I understand that, there's still gonna be areas where you really don't, for many reasons, you don't want the trail next to the road. But, and those properties, you would end up having to acquire.
Yeah, but you're
but-
correct, there's a tool in the toolbox that in some areas it might make sense to realign the road, give a little more flexibility. Yeah, and we have not looked at that.
No matter where that happens, that could be beneficial. I know at the Lake Independence Trail, when that road was totally redesigned, they gutted.
Reconstructed the whole thing.
Right away to right of way line was totally redesigned. So if that opportunity happens, then that certainly is the benefit of being able to avoid a lot of these problem areas.
These are not like an evolution, they're just like different options.
You can line it up.
This one's tiny, I think. Yeah, thank you, that's a good point.
So our second area that we looked at was just to the east. This is the property that we just acquired, the Steinke property, and then we have two additional properties here. So we're just showing if we were to construct soon, we could do a road-based route here, dip into Three Rivers property, and if we were to acquire these two to have this confluence point right here, we could have synergy with 4 parcels to bring it off the road right here before it enters back on the road down here.
Yeah, or even if we never acquire those, this is still a very viable option.
Yes. You line up right here, Kelly?
Yep, still a road.
Yeah. So again, just showing the evolution of options, right? If we were to acquire parcels in the middle here, we could drag it off of the road. We do have a potential willing seller right here, adjacent to a property that we own right here. We're showing maybe we don't acquire this one and we acquire this one, we could drag it off the road right here.
So one of the things that this map or diagram shows us is when you have just the standalone one, it makes it hard to really accomplish pulling it off. And so when we start to look at where we bundle or have like a bigger node, not only does it give us a better opportunity to pull the trail off, it also gives us maybe a little bit more land to think about, hey, what else could we use this land and maybe activate? Like, Are there water trail things that we should be looking at? Are there picnic things we should be looking at? Is this a good shoreline fishing? And really, like, it doesn't just have to be a trail. What else does the community or the city of Dayton need or want? That where we could kind of just build on this and make it something great. And you can make it great without this, right? It's different nodes and different pockets. And this is, again, just another option.
My immediate thought was being able to pull it off of the road every once in a while too, is when you're biking, it's just really nice to not have 3 miles straight of sunshine and be able to like go into the trees every once in a while,
sure.
so. When I think of that break, that's kind of what I'm thinking of.
And away from the busy traffic then too.
Yeah.
Again, this one just shows sort of that evolution of open space, right? So if these were the ones that we currently own, right here, and right here, you know, if we were to acquire this piece, could we acquire the piece to the left and the two to the right to garner a larger stretch of that experience off the road and through vegetation or
Is that
an
one
open
still by
space?
the road?
Because
sorry?
that is the property you were asking me about a couple weeks ago. That was the former fire chief that
Yeah.
has some pretty extensive topography.
But you can't put, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that shows
it's,
you the
it's,
property. You can't
it's
get
just
that.
diagrammatic. It's gonna
Okay.
be right along the property edge.
Oh,
So then what's the point of acquiring it?
yeah.
Uh,
Because I would have thought you'd have to come way into the property.
It's just an opportunity. You can do other things with the property.
Okay, so again, this seems to be more than just
Yep,
trail.
it's just showing concept so that you can react.
Is that this area here, Kelly?
Yeah.
Right.
It's the former, it's to the left, I think.
Right
This one?
Nope.
That one more.
One more.
left.
That one, yes.
Okay.
Because again, even in your ideal, perfect world, it's right up against
Right
the
on
road.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the area, that's probably the steepest
It is.
part of
It has
the whole road right there.
awesome shoreline. If you can get down there from the neighbor's property.
It does.
And if you can get down there, awesome flat shoreline fishing, river access. So there's other opportunities, but yes, from a trail perspective,
Nothing changes.
nothing changes. Okay. These are all down on the end.
Maybe
Pretty
Stefan
simple.
wants to- Stefan, if I toss these to you, could you chat them through?
It's only two, really. There's only two
Yeah,
parcels.
start
down
with the
there.
one on the bottom.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'd like to have, since you drew these, maybe it's best to have you kind of go through them, but I'm not even sure exactly where
Dan's
to
coming
go.
over.
Also, we're doing this right now.
That's harder.
Way down
Yeah.
here?
You can see the island.
You guys know your city well. Good job.
Start.
So while they're lining that up, the rehab for the county road is off the page, that's 2028, and then the reconstruction starts at the base, yep, right where Ann's finger is, and goes to Vicksburg. Right here, which is also the potential bridge location, that's 2029, and then reconstruction from Vicksburg, as far west as Reno, is to be determined. So the piece from Vicksburg to, again, where Ann's map is our priority spot of, that's where we're gonna be gearing up to figure out how to get that in the ground. And we're working with the county on that.
So
And you're saying in the ground by 2020?
In the,
If it works.
yep,
this property was the Rife property that Three Rivers acquired last year. We absolutely can bring it in through the Rife property and come up adjacent to the road before entering Cloquet and Elsie Stevens. However, should we be able to look at acquiring the property adjacent to it, we could pull it in through the Rife property and have a more off-road experience before bumping down to the road and then back up through Cloquet Overlook.
Still no crossing.
What's that?
Still no crossing though for the current housing developments that are there.
Yeah, we didn't look at that at all.
Across River Road.
There's a crossing there already.
There's the underpass at.
River
Right,
Road.
but you want to bike 10 miles to get back over
And
here?
then there will be the intersection control at North Diamond.
Sure.
It'd be great to have something in between them. Don't dismiss that. But there might be some potential, and this is something we asked the county to look at as part of their study. I don't know if I'm pointing to the right spot through here. There's a deep ravine. Maybe a potential.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe a potential in there. There is enough grade differential that something might be able to be worked out.
For an underpass.
Potentially.
How would you have the water?
It'd be tricky.
Oh, okay.
Wink, wink.
But yeah, it would be
Zip line it
difficult,
is?
but
But it-
it's something that we asked them to look at for.
High water when it
larger
rains.
spots.
Just can't use it sometimes of the year.
Ice skating rink in the winter.
So this scenario shows these two properties flip-flopped. Again, just showing how things could progress on a willing seller basis. We could come through the Reich property adjacent to the road, and then this property is directly adjacent to Cloquet, so we would have an extenuation of this park-like experience through this piece right here.
Topographies are quite easy through here, the ravine here, this design, we consider a bridge over that ravine.
And this, of course, shows a very similar alignment to the one Stefan shows here if we were to have both of these properties acquired.
So that's, John, could you hit there's like a question slide?
Yeah, well, it's just
If you want to advance a little bit. Thank you, a lot of time anyways. So, I think we've certainly given you guys a lot of background. We'd love to hear some more of your thoughts. I've been hearing a lot of your thoughts and super appreciative. I'll just take a moment to read all of the questions and then we can kind of go from there if it works. So, does the Council and Park Commission support Three Rivers acquiring easements and/or property along the road on a willing seller basis where necessary to construct the trail? So that's where we've flagged where the slope easements or retaining walls are. Does the Council and Park Commission support Three Rivers pursuing acquisition from the two current willing sellers? That is the property next to the Steinkes, as well as potentially the Meyer property. Thank you. Yep. Right, kind of right in the middle. This one, we definitely know we're going to need slope easements. And then we know that there's going to be a retaining wall, so that would require some type of property impacts too. So both of those, we know that there'd be some type of coordination with the property owner at which time the trail is built. Does the Council and Park Commission support willing sellers, private property owners selling to Three Rivers even if their land is not required for trail construction? So those are the three questions. And then I guess our last question is, what remaining questions or concerns does the Council and Park Commission have, or any other additional information that you'd like us to look at and come back to you?
Well, that very first one, I think it's a little bit disingenuous to put easements and acquiring entire properties in a single statement, because I have never had any issue with easements. Like, you can get easements all day long, right? Like, if you and the property owners can work out a deal and they're fine with it and you're fine with it, happy. And would never have anything to say about that. Coupling that right with the property, like, it's the acquisition of properties, particularly when you start to isolate properties that are now surrounded on all sides, right? Like, that is, I think, where I've heard from residents, where they feel like they're getting basically, for lack of a better phrase, bullied into selling to you because you're the big guy with all the money, and you apparently, money's no object when it comes to acquiring land, apparently, and you're buying up everything around them, and they're the last one standing, and they're surrounded, and they're feeling like they're being forced to make a decision whether they want to or not, and that's where I'm not comfortable. is with that. That has nothing to do with easements, right? Those are two completely separate lines.
Okay.
So, for me personally, easements all day long, have fun. It's that property acquisition when people feel like they are not, when they're being forced and not actually given a fair option.
So, my one thing is though, for the one who wants to sell to the park, like we have to hear them too. Because some people want their land to be used for a different purpose than just another home. And so how do you tell somebody who wants to sell to them that they're not allowed? That's where I'm having a hard time with some of the comments and some of the questions, is I just think if I was that homeowner and choosing to sell, I wouldn't like somebody telling me I can't.
Except it's
I'd like to talk about that just a little
Yeah,
bit.
because
if you
I'm
take
having a hard time understanding.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, exactly. You know, you want that freedom, it sounds like a good use to you. It ignores what your neighbors might want, but, you know, you ought to have that in your, you ought to be able to consider that. Take a step back. What does the city want for that stretch of river? Does it want to lose all of the control over, you know, this look here now is Three Rivers Park. And as a city, we'll have just as much say over how this is used and developed and restricted as we do over Elm Creek Park Reserve, which is zero other than come and put out a fire once in a while.
Yeah.
So that's the distinction for me. What's the city's vision of use of, the loss of use of this land for the city's purposes, beyond the individual homeowner?
And it is permanent.
Yeah.
Once government gets land,
We're not
It's
getting it
gone.
back.
it's gone.
And it's not like it's coming to the city's parks.
Right.
It's like you guys would have, like, it's out of our control completely. We'd have no say in any of it.
But we're not losing any of the city parks, right? In
No.
in
No.
any of the
No.
plans.
No. The other thing is there are some parts of the current Three Rivers Park that, you know, you guys don't allow access to. And that frustrates me to no end. That's public land. And yet, yeah, that kind of drives me a little bit wild. But, so it isn't just the homeowner selling to a willing buyer and willing seller. It's a permanent deal.
That the city is giving up. It's not ours anymore.
For me, it's, I want you to work with me here, or Three Rivers wants, we want to work with you here. But when it comes for time for a roundabout or for a street to go through,
We get hosed.
no, you're not touching 1 inch of our property.
Yep.
You get it from somebody else. If you don't want to work there, we don't want to work here. It seems to be always a one-way street.
I have to echo what Carrie's saying. I mean, if the landowner wants to sell, I get the city's position, we lose the land, I completely get that, but this is the landowner. And they're offered dollars, and they know that their land's gonna be put into something useful for the rest of time. I'd have to side with the landowner.
Useful.
Into a bigger park, into
Yeah.
a trail, something they can come visit whenever or ride a bike down it. I'd have to side with the landowner. It's their property. They're the ones paying the taxes on the property. They should be able to, within zoning purposes, be able to do what they want with it.
I don't disagree on that part of it. But the part, you're gonna go down a slippery slope. And more likely than not, we're gonna wait to 50 years before we get any kind of a trail. Because the goal is to acquire it all. That's the goal.
Right, I get that. And they say, you know, current taxes on it is only 40 grand today. Well, in
I don't care about
2050,
that
it's gonna
part.
be $4.2 million.
It could be, yeah.
It's gotta be made up somewhere.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, everybody in this room would be dead before all of that is acquired. More likely than not.
It'll be all right.
Stop drinking the water if you're saying that.
Right, but I,
You and me.
Opinions?
Do I have opinions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question, and it may just be an ignorant question, just lack of knowledge. What happens, so there's some of these properties over here that
it says that you need like a retaining wall. What happens if they don't want to give you an easement to put in your wall? Because I would be really angry if I lived in one of these and you wanted to, because my grading, so what happens with that? What if they don't want to work with? Then
The current council would condemn
Trail
it.
stops.
so it just stops.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you could get a different council in 4 years that totally rewrites this whole chapter.
Well, that happens with everything.
It
We've
can.
seen this time and time again.
Okay.
But I guess my question then is, and maybe it's just a statement, I'm just talking out loud because I'm a verbal processor, but there's a chance that you may pigeonhole some of those landowners, right? Like into if things next to them are selling, everything is gone, kind of like we were saying before, and they don't want to give you easement. They have one of two options. They have to pick a lesser of the evils, right? Like put a huge retaining wall on their property or sell their property. And if that was me, I'd be like, see you later, I'll sell my property, I'm gonna get out of here. Then they do, sorry, you're not the they, it's not an us against you. Sorry, that was a bad phrase. But at that point, then Three Rivers does own the entire thing, and we end up in that situation anyway.
But acquiring 50 feet from here to here on this side of the road is probably cheaper than acquiring those homes that they want to get.
So,
But switching back and
No,
forth.
you don't have to shift. You just move the road. And
Oh,
then you
move
can
the-
still build on this side.
you say that like it's like, oh,
Like the
just
county
move
will
the
be like-
road. Like,
Well,
how
Not a
well,
problem,
There's a
Dave. We'll
reason
do
why
whatever
the
you want.
county is not reconstructing the road soon. Designing and reconstructing county roads is not cheap. So it's, if you look at, and I'm not the expert, so I'm sure we could run numbers or someone could run numbers, but buying up all of those properties, I'm not saying we should buy up all those properties, versus building a whole new road, it might actually become a wash. I don't know, right?
But
Look, I'm
less
just saying that we
impact.
should be thoughtful
Right.
and not flippant about
Right.
making those assumptions.
right,
less
this is
impact.
where I'm going. Like, it might be a wash price-wise for you, but the value,
Those homes would be protected and, yes, I
and
can
for
totally get that.
them not having that impact to their property, because again, like, I'll just reiterate, if that was me, I would be livid.
Yep.
I would be no, I would not. But I would be upset with that. Like, that wouldn't be a viable option for me. And if it's going to be a wash for you, like, at that
Easement,
point.
you mean?
Yeah, I just
You
mean,
mean
like, if you
there's-
move,
Oh, yeah.
whatever that, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's easy, I'm not saying that's the route to
Yeah.
go. I'm just saying that if I'm for the trail,
Mm-hmm.
but again, like, I'll, like, echo what Sarah said, there's a difference between a trail and an entire, like,
Massive park.
correct. And I'm
Another-
not,
Sorry, another
No, no,
massive
I just-
park. That's all.
No, and I think it makes sense in the chunks that are already owned to use that to the best of
Absolutely.
their ability and to their potential. But I'm not there. I'm not close to there. And this makes me uncomfortable and nervous because of the amount of impact to property owners that currently have property along there.
Well, so they either own all of it, or an easement, or you're saying none?
I'm saying I don't know what the
Oh,
answer
okay.
is. I'm verbally processing out loud
Yep.
because this is how I work.
So easements are also, they're approved by the council.
So what happens, again, lack of knowledge?
So you asked what happens, let's just pick this parcel here, just a random parcel, I don't know these people, but we need a slope easement, and if they don't want to give it to us.
Yeah.
So Three Rivers does not have the authority to condemn property, nor is our board interested in condemning property, just like your council, and probably is in an
They
individual.
were.
We aren't now.
So this, in order for Three Rivers Council to condemn property, let's say we had a different board composition, just like your board or your council can change. The City of Dayton City Council has to authorize Three Rivers to use condemnation. So the condemnation authority ultimately comes from the city. But it's still requires our board to also approve it because we would be the ones to do the work. What we would be exploring first is every other scenario, like, can you tighten up the trail so it's 8 feet instead of 10? Can we reduce the clear zones from 3 feet to 2 feet? Can we work with the county to reduce shoulders? Can we reduce lanes? What we're showing today is based on
our best guess, following design standards, which is a 10-foot trail and 3-foot shoulders and all of like that stuff, before we would start modifying and not meeting all the safety standards. And knowing that we haven't done any survey work, we haven't done any wetland delineations, but we're trying to show you spots, general areas where, hey, things are gonna be a little complex. And we're not the county. We don't know what their road reconstruction will look like. They don't know what their road reconstruction is going to look like. So we are working with the assumption that it's not going to change, but it might change.
To that point, can I ask, so let's say nothing changes on the bottom, but we're going to move forward in 2029 with building this. This
piece.
bottom,
That piece. We
that
would
piece.
only that
Just
piece
that
over
piece.
there. Yep.
So.
We still got a lot of time to figure this piece out, this stretch over
Perfect.
there.
Okay, so as you're building, is the goal, I know the goal is to complete, but if you get to a point where there is a piece of property that's not willing to work with you, is the goal to build up until then at least, or is it an all or nothing scenario? I'm curious about that.
I think that was part of what we were showing with the trace paper is you go around the properties that are holdouts, and hopefully we can work with.
And there are options to go around.
There are options to go around, whether you're moving the road or tightening up a shoulder or tightening up the trails. Instead of 10 feet, you've got 8 feet.
And we'd be at the table with the county too, as they design the section that they're going to reconstruct. If there's opportunities to shift the road, we'd be at the table trying to, encourage that to happen with the county, to potentially eliminate or reduce the amount of impacts or easements that might be necessary in difficult areas.
Right. And acquiring easements in general is cheaper for Three Rivers as well. Everyone that we've engaged with and acquired property has not been interested in selling Three Rivers an easement. They wanted to sell their whole property.
Well, that's because they wanted to sell their whole property.
They wanted to sell their whole property.
I'm not going to sell you an easement if you're going to buy my whole property.
And that's, we are trying to be an accommodating buyer to what their wishes are. And that's how it's shaken out. Yep.
I have a question on the third bullet up there. Kind of just swung me for a loop. Willing sellers, private property owners selling to Three Rivers, even if their land isn't a part of this trail. Are you guys eyeballing other properties?
No, it would just be, say there's a parcel on here. We could pick.
This one right here, you wouldn't need.
This one. Okay, yeah, that's a great one.
You would never need
this
it.
one right here, we don't need. The trails, for
you're in your-
topography reasons,
Okay.
we're never gonna, I can't envision that we would ever put the trail directly through this property.
Because even in your perfect world, you don't have it.
Yep.
So it had easement,
So-
he's landlocked.
He
right?
has an easement across this property.
Right, so you.
And then this,
you carry that forward.
we require that this become public legal access because it was not.
Right.
So now they're fine. But they might say, hey, we're interested in selling. That would be a case that the city would have to consider and Three Rivers would have to consider, is that a parcel we would want to acquire for the sake of, well, now you have, maybe there's other benefits, there's other recreation or natural resource purposes and benefits of acquiring that parcel that are not for the trail, but still have public benefits.
It's right next to Gooden Park. If there was some city,
Yeah. You still can
hiking
develop
trails to
this.
Gooden Park that could be expanded into that property, it would be a public benefit.
I took it as expanding the current park, not this here. So thank you for the clarification.
It would all be along this trail, it just might be where like an easement is not needed up to this property, wherever you don't see the pink or the brown.
Got it. Thank you.
It's a great question, thank you for.
I have a question for the council too. Has any citizen with property here expressed feeling bullied already into? Okay,
Yes.
I was curious because in my brain I'm like, oh, it'd be lovely to be surrounded by trails, but that's
what I
my,
think.
that's me.
Going across the property constantly.
Because then you also have liability issues. What happens when someone is ignoring the trail right or whatever and gets hurt on your land? You become liable.
It's the same as if your neighbor.
Yes, but the amount, like, I have one neighbor. I don't have an entire community of 200,000 people coming down my property right now. You put a trail in, suddenly the number of people going by your property has skyrocketed.
You're not liable.
You are liable. You are.
We
If
consulted with our general.
No. If they deviate
Talk to
off
my
the trail and
insurance.
go onto your private property, you're liable.
I mean, that's why I have to have an umbrella, because I'm across the street from Elm Creek Park Reserve, and like if any, I've got horses and people who come on my land, usually they're coming after their horse. But like if they got hurt on my land, they absolutely could sue me, and maybe in the end, after however many court cases, I might prevail, but every lawyer and insurance person I talk to is like, no, you're going to be liable. You don't want to go down that road. So. Yeah, it's different than having your neighbor. The amount of traffic near you is going to go through the roof. So, and again, I like parks. I like trails. I also don't want to be on a road. Like, I'm not against this. As a council person, I am representing the citizens who came to me very concerned that they are feeling like they are being shoehorned into this. Sure. And that's who I'm trying to represent. So I recognize that you guys are representing, like, from the perspective of what would be an amazing park for the entire city. And that's, those two don't, like,
necessarily.
Yeah. And sometimes one person can simultaneously want both things.
Right.
So, because one of the residents said really well, I was absolutely 100% in favor of a park trail and actually super excited about a park trail in my front yard. Like, sign me up, yay. But then the next time I saw the map, the trail is literally going through my house. And it's like, wait, hold up, friend. I was cool with a bike trail. I was 100% in favor of a bike trail. I did not want you to tear my house down. And so that's where, like, there are people who absolutely are supportive of the trail idea and genuinely were excited about it when this first came up, and now are like, wait, what happened? Like, we were told in an email, oh, don't worry about it, it's just going to be along the road, we're not planning it going through your living room, and now suddenly it's planned to go through my living room. So.
Are there other, like, case studies of where this has happened along the river in other parts of the Twin Cities, and like how that's shaken out for those communities and the residents who were
So
there?
not along the river that I'm aware of, but Three Rivers has regional trails. We have over 180 miles of regional trails, and they all start with a line on a map. And that line on a map, somebody always owns the land underneath it. And the Medicine Lake Regional Trail was really no different. And it took over 30 years to assemble all of the property rights. And a lot of it was this exact same exercise of working with private property owners.
And how did it shake out in terms of the
30 years and working with the city as well as developers and the private property owners. Some of it full property acquisition, some of it easements, but it's all fully assembled now, and it goes all the way from Elm Creek Park Reserve to Fish Lake to French. Is that 15 miles long, maybe? Yeah, 15 miles long. It's one of our highest user satisfaction trails in our system, and we've been able to work with all of the road jurisdictions, that there's very few road crossings that are at grade. So once you're on it, it's like you are on a linear park. And it's super desirable. If you look at, obviously I'm not trying to be flippant or disregard the private properties that are along the river corridor. As a Three Rivers representative, it's my job to represent the broader region. And if you look at anyone that's selling their house and lives next to one of our parks or next to our trail corridors, one of the things that they will list, and usually in the first sentence, is private access to blank and blank trail or park, or right across the street from blank and blank trail, because people move there for that access because it's desirable. And it is a different type of amenity to be adjacent to the trail than it is to be on a greenway type corridor. This still works. It is just different, and you have to think about what you want for your community moving forward and thinking about how your community is going to change, and it doesn't have to be all of this or all of this. I think it would be helpful for us to know, are there certain areas that, like, as you're thinking about how your community might change, where you're looking at the line and saying, you know what, the line doesn't really make sense, or it doesn't really change from here to here if you buy the parcel or not, so it doesn't make sense. Let's work with Three Rivers or tell them, like, let's not do acquisition here, but while there's a huge benefit if we tell them they can acquire all of this, because now all of a sudden you've got a half a mile that's totally off the trail and a bunch of land, and that land is flat and developable. And oh, and by the way, it works with our water trail, or it works with all these other things. Like, you guys know your city better than us. You know your goals better than us. Your comments about the roundabout, like, I hear you.
Yeah.
And I think I can say from Three Rivers' perspective, like, we feel that too. I think partnerships go both ways, and I don't want to say, like, hey, we're either you buy into this or we're out of here. But I think there's an opportunity for us to say, how can we kind of figure out what that common goal is? We don't have to do this. And we don't need to push that. But I think there is some momentum to build off of this a little bit and get your residents something that you can feel really proud of. And people are going to say, like, wow, I want to live in Dayton because guess what? They've got one of the best regional trails in the whole metro. It's right on the Mississippi River. We've got great access to it. We can fish there. We can kayak there. There's bike rentals, whatever the case may be. But that's how you become a desirable community. That's how you change.
Not the 20% of Dayton that you already own.
Yeah.
But that's all in one spot. I mean, my family moves average every 4 years. This is exactly what we look for.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I chose Dayton was because I went on your website and saw those three things. So why I came on Parks was because I value those three things. So it's kind of, I don't know.
I lived in St. Paul before this, in the MacGroveland neighborhood, and they have a phenomenal trail that goes right along the Mississippi that's kind of like this, and
Yeah,
it's
and that's what you
very, and it's still very, like, I mean, obviously super desirable to live near there, and it feels very residential at the same time. Like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like you're losing much. Of course, I'm saying that not as someone who owns any of the Riverside property, but I agree with you that I understand that how this is desirable for people who move here.
if it's willing, and they're not forcing anything. So that's, I mean, I'd feel different if it was forced, but it's willing.
Well, there's certainly time for this piece.
Mm-hmm.
And this piece, to me, it's not that big a deal to run road here, and you've got some of the loops in here.
Well, I personally, I fully agree. Like, I don't think you need to make a decision
Right.
really on this whole piece, other than where we have willing sellers that are patiently waiting. And we know that their parcels are parcels that are already identified as impact parcels. Granted, they want to sell their whole parcel and not an easement. And then strategically really looking at that eastern half and saying, and I'm not recommending this, I'm throwing this question out for the council and the Parks Commission to say, I think there's like 8 parcels on that half, on the 2029 half. Do you want to be more proactive with having Three Rivers send a letter out and make inquiries, still on a willing seller on any of those parcels, or just call it good?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, any willing seller doesn't have to sell to Three
They
Rivers
don't.
Park.
They don't.
Anybody can buy it.
Anybody can buy it. But if you are wanting to take advantage of the 2029 county road project
Well,
and
to me,
build
there
a...
is no advantage about having the park acquire it.
Oh,
That's not an advantage.
I was,
Sure,
okay. For
in
getting
your,
the-
in your seat,
yes.
it's an advantage.
Yes,
I
for
get
having the
that.
trail off the road as
Right.
much as possible.
Right.
Yes.
There's a lot of trail off the road here.
Yeah, that's a, yep.
I get it, I understand. You're in Three Rivers seat. You're counting for this. That's what you're supposed to be doing. I get it.
So you're
I mean-
asking though, if it's okay, is that something you need to ask us, if it's okay to send letters to those?
No,
Or,
we're totally fine doing what we're doing, which is absolutely nothing. Three Rivers hasn't been sending letters, with the exception of, when we acquired some properties here, there was several neighbor disputes, and we wanted to go in and say, hey, we're gonna be the new neighbor, so if there's any concerns, here's our contact information, feel free to contact us, so that we can get things resolved and you know what's going on. And then there was another property we acquired, and we were keeping a parking lot so people could use it for shoreline fishing. And so we wanted the neighbors to know that there was going to be public access. Those are the only two letters or instances that we've sent letters. Everything else has been community members, either word of mouth or doing their own homework and due diligence, or properties were on the open market and we worked with realtors.
So you are monitoring if a property comes
Yep.
for sale? Okay. So I guess one of my I appreciate that we're not in a hurry, right?
Yep.
But we are, because
We can build this just for the 2029.
Oh, I'm not talking about you guys and the road. I'm talking about us. We are in the process of paying someone to design Elsie Stevens, right?
Oh, sure.
It seems silly to do that if it's suddenly going to be if the long-term plan is for this giant thing to happen.
You already have a trail through Elsie Stevens that we paid for.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it seems to me like we should really have a vision and a plan so that we are executing the same vision and the same plan, and not we are executing this vision, this plan, while you guys are meanwhile waiting for this other vision and plan. Like, thinking about water trail access, thinking about, like, all of these things should be planned together. Not that they have to be built at the same time, but like we need to have, I think it's important as a city that we have a plan for what this is going to
are
look
you
like.
thinking about like priorities at Elsie Stevens?
Yes.
If there's possibility for
Yes,
other things that we
exactly.
were thinking of initially being in
Yes,
Elsie Stevens
but-
to go somewhere
Exactly.
else.
Like, and then we don't have to put it all in Elsie Stevens because
Yeah.
it would make more sense to have, like you were talking about, maybe the fishing or talking about the boat launches, kayak launches, bike rentals. Like, if the long-term goal is to get this all to be one park, we don't need to pack it all into Elsie Stevens. Let's spread it out and put it in the ideal spot. But if instead of maybe the whole thing, we're focused on like just this chunk, because this is a really nice big corridor, and then some of these areas that doesn't really come off the road no matter what, so like who cares, one way or the other, the path stays there, then don't worry about that, and then Gooden Park has a different, right, like, I think we need to have a set vision for what this is going to look like, and then move forward with that vision, and not just these onesie-twosies where we get backed into a corner, and now money has been spent, and decisions were made, and now either we have a complete other mismatch, or we have like duplicate things literally, like you were saying, you want to get off the trail for a while, right? But like, why would we want two boat launches that are like 5 feet apart? Like, what's the point of that?
Sure.
So like, where, and like the topography, where are good boat launches in and out, right? Not every place makes for good, where are the good fishing spots? Like,
But if we don't
that
have
kind of
that land yet, how do we do that?
Well, I think that's where we should, that's part of why I think we kind of need to plan at a certain point, like these are the things that makes the most sense to get because they're going to be the hardest and they're going to require easements, and we should just plan that long term we're going to get them. It might have to be however many years in the future, but just waiting and seeing what happens is just not, that's not how you plan a city. Like at a certain point, you have to make a plan, and then you have to go forward and execute that plan.
You've got your
So-
comp plan coming up, you do it as part of your comp plan.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
And
like.
you just do the circle
yes.
that says park search area.
Yes, like all of those things are coming right on top of each other, so like I appreciate that y'all could wait 30 years like you did with the other trail, but like we can't. We need to get this done right now. So that's why I'm grateful. I would love to keep these, put them up on the walls and have like a chance and like have the community come in like, but this is our chance. Like this is our chance to really make an awesome plan. So, because I would like Elsie Stevens to be a premier park. And I would love to see, ideally, a perfect, like, you can do a boat launch off the historic village, come into Elsie Stevens, rent a bike back up to the historic village, get yourself a nice lunch at a cute little cafe. Like, I think that could be an amazing thing, but I think we need to be intentional about it and not just wait and see what happens and hope for the best.
Question for the council. So just my interpretation is that there's a majority of support for easements. Is that accurate?
Yeah, never had any issue with easements.
For parcel by parcel acquisition from willing sellers?
Not yet.
For nothing, or depends on the parcel?
I think we need to have a discussion where we choose some of this up.
You want a discussion depending, like, on the parcel by parcel or on the whole
The
corridor?
whole thing right now.
The whole
I
corridor.
think we need the whole thing at least.
The whole picture, I guess, in my mind.
Right.
Not just this.
Well, this is the whole picture for us.
Right.
No.
For
There's another picture coming that we need to deal with.
So,
okay.
so I just see another work session with the parks and council, I think.
We can
Just
keep these, you said, right?
To pull all this information in and ponder some of these things. I would also like to know, you know, I guess maybe you've indicated it somewhat, but parcels that are going to be hard to do, where you don't have the entire lot, it would be nice to know those. Not just that you need an easement and a wall. It'd be nice to have some of that information too. But
There is one parcel under is noted that, that we would need an easement if we don't get the entire parcel, but if we were to get the entire parcel, then it would be much easier to construct the trail and you know, avoid being close to the road.
And that's under the scenario as the road is right now, correct?
Everything is
Because-
under the scenario
right,
as the
yeah,
road is right now.
because to me, it's much easier, and you guys got way more pull than the average Joe with the county.
We used to.
You still do. So, I mean, you can easily go to the county and say, hey, we need to make this work for us, we need 50 feet here.
You don't need that.
Whether it works or not, I mean, that's your deal.
So am I hearing the direction from the council is to have another workshop to discuss the whole corridor from border to border?
And the discussion would be around like long-term vision for anything that would go in this corridor.
I would like that, yes.
Yeah.
Like a full final plan.
'Cause we are talking about a change in land use, right? The
Yeah.
2040 plan doesn't show any of this greenway thing. It shows low-density residential as it is today.
And then what information would you like, or what questions do you like? Would you like prepared? 'Cause otherwise, we're going to be looking at the same thing in the same conversation.
Yeah.
well, I think we'll have had time to process it too. I mean, if you were to ask me those questions now, I'm going to say no at all of them because I haven't thought about it.
Okay.
I also think it gives some of the property owners along here who've been concerned. And one of the things that I've heard repeatedly is, I want to see where this trail is. Like, I just want to see where this trail is because they haven't, like, what would my easement options be? Because some people feel like they haven't even been told, like, what would an easement look like, right? And now we have that. And so it would also give those property owners a chance to talk to the council and say, you know what, I'm okay, like, I would be okay with that easement, like, I'd be fine with that, or no, I would not be okay with that. And so, like, and they might not necessarily, like, that property owner might not be comfortable saying that right now in front of this entire room in a publicly recorded meeting, but they might be comfortable coming to us in between. So as far as what information could happen between now and then, that is something that we could definitely get some more information on.
So you would like us just to sit tight?
Not for very long, because I recognize that you have people who want to sell and they're waiting on this decision, and you're waiting on this decision. So I'm not saying months and months, but like maybe.
That's fine, just so we're,
Yeah.
just so I'm clear that we're not compiling or answering any other questions and.
That's just for me. I
We
can't
will-
speak for the rest of the council.
We will not be tabling then at the next, or at the Public Works open house, because we will not have anything to share.
Would you like to show this at the open house?
Yeah, I want this at the open house. Is there a reason why we couldn't have both of these at the open house?
I think there is. It depends on what we see as a vision as a city. I don't think we should be putting this up unless we're really behind that
Okay.
as an option.
Or if there's some hybrid between the two that is your final vision.
I'm certainly not behind this back here. I'd like to see that plan built in the next 10 years. And to me, it's not that big a deal. Heaven forbid if you got to drive along the road for that. From there to there is about a half a mile. And it might not even be that far. And it'll be cheaper building easements and make a berm than it will be to acquire them properties.
But you're afraid of if we showed this one to the city
That's
at the
not,
open house.
that's not even realistic,
Yeah,
because you're not
people
gonna
are-
acquire every property. It's not realistic, unless you wait 100 years for everybody to die off.
They waited 30.
Yeah.
Do you have indicated in here the people who want to sell and that are currently in a holding pattern? Are those indicated in
I
any way, shape,
believe
or
so,
form?
let me double
Okay.
check.
There's at least one.
There's two.
There are two.
There are two.
We can just mark them real quick. I'll just do a little red dot
Red
if that's
X?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my concern is for like, do you see that little wedge
There's a
right in
strip?
the middle? Yeah. How are they gonna? Would you feel?
Could take it radically one way or the other.
Some people would be like, "This
Some
is
people
amazing.
like,
I
"This
have
is
no
great." Yeah,
neighbors."
I have. Well,
And
I
some
have
people are
park all
like,
around me, except some people are like, well, I got traffic all around me.
Well, I guess we would need to just ask them.
"Yeah." That's why I like that.
He's right here. We're talking theoretical and we're all right here.
Well, I didn't want to put anyone on the spot if they weren't comfortable speaking. Like I said, this is a public meeting in front of a lot of people, so I didn't want to make anyone have to like say it now if they wanted to come talk afterwards.
Is there time for comment really quick, or?
That's up to you. It's your meeting, isn't it?
It's a joint meeting called by the council, so I
Okay.
would defer.
I'd be
to
cool
Jared.
with it.
I don't have a problem.
I'm in.
They should have.
Come on up.
Let them
Come
have
on
some
up, say
say.
your name, and I think he has to rate his address.
I mean, I'll just say
Yep.
something real quick, because.
Name and address and then spiel.
Josh Farland, 17100 Date River Road, right next to the red dot that was just put there. Kind of a skinny strip of land there that could be kind of landlocked. I guess it's kind of repeating what you had just said a little bit ago. It'd be really nice to see if those pieces of land are gone and the trail comes up and around, what would that easement look like if everybody kind of looks, my house is right there. So there's a few maps that are floating around where I got lines kind of going right through, you know, and I know the line isn't perfect, but what would that easement look like right there? You know, it would be nice to see that. So, I guess that would be, there's a lot of other people along this roadway too that aren't here right now, but it'd be nice to see what that would really look like, and then they can make a decision from there on what they might want to do.
But your question or concern is mostly around the easement and not around like being the sole strip of like a house.
So, when this first was adopted.
Sorry
I
to
was-
put you on the spot. You
No,
don't have
that's
to
fine.
answer that either.
So when this was first adopted, we bought our house in like 2016. The next year, we started hearing about this bike path, and it sounded great. Yeah, I mean, I can't go out and bike down the road right now. My daughter's 3 years old. I'm not bringing her down the road. You know, so I've always kind of figured I'm going to lose some land in the front, you know, which I don't have a lot of. But then now lately, I'm kind of gonna be living inside of a park, and I'm not sure if that's exactly what, for one, the plan was the whole time, but I'm not really sure if that's really what I want. Now, I don't necessarily want to tell people that they can't do what they want to do with their land, but I'm not as concerned with that. I'm kind of concerned as, how is this path going to come up to me and then go around me? Are they going to kind of make me feel like I'm getting squeezed out a little bit? Not forced out, but squeezed out. So it's kind of where I'm coming from in that spot. So
You have a steep driveway coming into your property now.
So I actually share the property with Tom right here, who's my next door neighbor, who's the red dot. So, and it goes down, and there's actually a road a driveway that goes around. And I've always looked at that saying, I'm probably gonna lose that, and, you know. Now, if we can push the road across, that'd be awesome. You know, I've never thought about that up until the last couple months, but, you know, so I know I'm kind of one of those properties that have that big circle around it right now.
Okay.
I haven't really talked about it, voiced it a whole lot, but, you know, definitely interested in seeing what that would look like. Where is that trail gonna go? Is it gonna dip in just a little bit around me? Maybe it's not so bad, but until you can kind of see that, there's this big question mark out there, and I think that those question marks out there are making people kind of a little worried along here, so.
Kelly, you could build a 200-foot boardwalk in the front, right? If you had to.
A boardwalk?
Yeah.
Well, you can engineer, I think,
You
anything.
can
It just
pretty
comes
much
with a
build
cost.
anything. I mean, you build across the swamp, so.
Yeah, I don't know if a boardwalk is the right solution.
No,
for
I
that
know, but
spot, but
You had spoken about a 10-foot wide with 3-foot,
There's zones, yeah.
so we're talking
16
16 total feet. So if you look from your road, 16 feet, you know,
Yeah.
Well,
Does
that's
it-
go 20,
16 from the edge of the right of way.
right?
So you could still be within the right of way though.
That was my other question is, where does the route, how does that 16 feet overlap with the right of way on the
You
road?
are at a level of design that we are not at.
Okay.
And it's really hard to find that as a property owner sometimes, exactly what that's gonna look like and everything,
Yeah.
so now, there's a couple other neighbors along the river that maybe 10, 15 feet doesn't really bother them that much, they just wanna know that that's where it's gonna be, and it's not gonna, they're not gonna
Your
need to
house
buy
is
the property or
close
get
and you've got
pushed home.
topography, it's
You
a
know,
little.
yeah, it's not that bad, but there's a few other ones that are kinda like me, that are kinda like,
There's a handful that are real soft.
wondering what this is gonna really look like, and,
Sure.
you know, and whatnot, so.
25
Like I
feet
said,
could be
everyone-
your
I'm
living
gonna talk to
room
you
or your
about
front
that.
Yeah,
door.
it could be 10 feet away from my porch, you know, or whatever. You know, and is that gonna be something at some point
Tearing the house
that
down.
you guys can show me and say, like, this is what it's gonna be? And I think that's what has been missing a lot in some of this stuff, and a lot of the neighbors are just noticing empty lots and houses being torn down, so.
Kelly, is it feasible to create some sort of like renderings for each of the parcels of land that are still privately owned so that they could kind of see what that looks like within their property, not just a line, but like
It's a,
actually render it out?
it's a lot of work that comes with significant cost to do the type or the level of engineering that I think you all are looking for. And we could do that exercise, but keep in mind that it's a hypothetical because we don't really know what the road situation is. And if the road situation changes, then we've spent the $100,000 to show you a hypothetical that if the road changes, as development changes, and we can push the road south, we might not need all those, right? And that's kind of the point of this exercise with the trace paper is, I feel you. It is incredibly hard to predict and look into the crystal ball and say, it's exactly gonna be here, these are what the impacts are gonna be.
Somebody took a lot of time on that trace paper, and I appreciate that, because that's it's the farthest that we've gotten to as a design.
And it's a diagram.
And it is, yeah.
It's only a diagram.
That's the farthest that, you know, we've been able to kind of see
And-
lately on what the.
And what we, in full disclosure, we've really been spinning our wheels because Well, we've had this, you know, in the long-range plan, it talks about this. It didn't diagram it out or put it on a map. Partly because you never want to show the trail going through someone's living room. That doesn't feel good to anyone involved. It doesn't feel good to the decision makers. It sure doesn't feel good to the people whose living room it is. And that line is so flexible because it's based on 1,000 different things, and until you do that engineering, and you guys have probably gone through it with Elsie, Stevens, and all of the other construction projects the city does at any given time, that things change and they're so fluid. I think it, you know, looking at a handful of properties and kind of figuring out like, well, a property typical like yours, this is what that might look like, and then you could say it would apply to, you know, these 3 or 4. We can do that as just a very general diagram, but I don't want to go through the exercise of engineering all of this out when we know we're not doing trail construction and we don't have any willing sellers and.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have 2 questions. One, why did my brain just blank on that first question? Oh, okay. What is the absolute minimum? So you ideal trail, 10-foot trail, 3 foot on either side, right? That's the ideal.
You could do 8 and 2 and 2.
Okay. I think knowing what the bare minimum is, because you could at least go to your house and be like, okay, I think it's here,
Yeah.
and then I can measure, 12 feet.
You can go from the edge of the road and say you got tight right away, so we're going to do a curb, and we'll put storm sewer in, and then go your 14 feet.
Yeah.
Nothing, I'm looking at you, the expert.
Yep, that would be the minimum.
That would be the minimum.
So you could at least do that, right? Which is some, because that's the number I haven't been able to
Do you know
find.
where your property corners are?
I mean, I know about where they are.
So then you kind of.
So that's something that I haven't really had to ask myself that much because I got one neighbor and other side as you guys. Right?
And you got a buddy that's really good with construction skills. He could probably also help kind of spitball what your impacts are going to be.
But at least that's a number I haven't seen. So that's a helpful number to know. Like that is what you're looking at. So you can at least guesstimate. It's not a perfect.
And you'd have slope easement to just tie in all your grading work.
And
That would be
And I
temporary.
know this really isn't the public spot to be doing this. I think was supposed to be down. We're just kind of listening, but I'm down talking. So
Here we go.
Yeah. I've always kind of accepted the fact that would be potentially easement, and that's fine. But then it's kind of like, okay, well now is it going to be maybe an easement, but 4 years down the road when this happens, is that going to turn into no? Now we want your property and we're going to be able to take it. I mean,
No.
Planning, building, and stuff like that, doing whatever else, so that's the unknowns of some of the other neighbors and communities.
Unfortunately, until it gets engineered, we're not going to know to the specificity that maybe you're looking for. We took our best shot with
topography,
given the topography and our 16-foot wide corridor standard, right, at 5% grade. But you still want to consider this line on the map to be conceptual. It'll give you some ideas of where it needs to be next to the road and not next to the road, and potentially where there might need to be retaining walls or not. But it's still very high level conceptual.
The trail's going to come and go to the road.
If you want to stay in your house, it's going to be along the road.
So then my second question I remembered was, at what point do you build it?
Oh, yeah. So 2029 is our plan for over there.
Up to where again?
Vicksburg.
Vicksburg.
So we
Vicksburg.
can work with the county.
Okay.
And then there's no time frame yet. We don't have it in our CIP yet. We don't have funding earmarked for this piece yet.
Is the intent, though, to align that trail work with the reconstruction of the road?
That would be great, but until we know when the county's going to reconstruct it, we also don't want to bank on it. So we're kind of waiting for the county to put a year on it and then decide whether that year is feasible for us or not. We don't really like buying a bunch of property and then not having it available for public use. But we also know you're going to have a little bit of that as you assemble property. That's the nature of putting together a linear corridor.
It's just a curiosity. You mentioned you don't really have money allocated for the trail yet, right?
Not for construction, yeah.
How is it that in a heartbeat you can come up with 500 grand for a house?
So probably similar to the city, we have different pots of money for different things. And our acquisition, we're fortunate enough when things are part of an adopted long-range plan, up to 75% of our acquisition costs are reimbursed through the Met Council. And so that allows our money to go a lot farther.
Wouldn't that be sweet?
Wouldn't that be sweet?
Yeah.
Where do they get their magical pot of money?
So
Just
um,
shake the
we
trees
know.
and give
for
it
most
out.
of the
Okay.
for most of the money that we use on this trail corridor, the 75% is then split. 60% comes from legacy money, so that Constitution Amendment, and then 40% comes from Met Council GO bonds. And then the other 25% is Three Rivers contributions. So you got the pie, 75-25, 25 Three Rivers, 75 Met Council, and then that 75 is 60% comes through the legacy, 40% comes from the Met Council bonds. Yes? That's why we only have so much per year that we can tap into that.
That's for acquiring property, not acquiring trails, or
Building
trails.
Right, yep, so we have more flexibility and because this is the only corridor, you guys, in our whole county where people have been calling frequently saying we're interested in selling. We've got trails planned in 8 other cities right now with similar scenarios and people aren't calling. People are just calling here and I can't, everyone's got a unique story. We have a willing seller here that I think is interested in sharing if it's okay for them to
Sure.
share as well.
See
Tom,
your name, your address, and then fill
Tom,
out the form.
do you want to share?
Yeah, I would like to.
So
I live,
you have to say your name and your address,
Yeah.
and then you can share your comments.
my name is Tom Lander, and I live next to Josh at 17060 Dayton River Road. And I want to make it clear that Three Rivers didn't come to me. I went to them. And one of the reasons I did, back in 2020, October, I got the COVID. I spent 6 days in the hospital, 30 days in a nursing home. And out of the whole thing, I ended up being a long hauler. So I've got problems with fatigue, shortness of breath, depression, all of that stuff. And I've got a bad back, a bad right knee, and the biggest problem for me is I just cannot keep up the work there. I can't keep the yard nice anymore. And they made me a decent offer, which I had checked. My daughter-in-law checked with her husband's niece. She's in realty, looked it up. They said it was a very good price. Now, to put this house on the open market, I have to be honest, I found a defect. And when the house was originally built, they added on the kitchen and the garage. And the guy that built it was kind of, well, I don't think anybody around here would know him anymore, because I've been there 40 years. But he had been known to add stuff on and not get it approved.
Yeah.
Well, the kitchen slopes down a little bit, about 2 inches, and the garage, Josh has seen, I showed him the other day, it's about 3 inches moved out. Now, for me to put that on the open market, and I've been in construction, I am looking at 50 to 60,000 plus realty costs. So that is my scenario.
Thank you.
I had a 95-year-old aunt that lived with me for over 3 years, but I had to put her in memory care. I just couldn't keep her at home anymore and keep up with her too,
Yeah.
you know. So that is my scenario.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Do you have to share?
Where are we going with this?
So timing, we've got an open house in 2 weeks. And is there support to have this map shown?
The bottom one?
The bottom one.
The bottom one.
Yeah, I
Just
think
collect
so.
comments from the public.
I think so.
I don't have a problem with the bottom one. I mean,
And
I
not
personally
support
would like,
for the top
not that
one.
one.
Okay.
Because to me, it's not realistic, and if we strive for the top one, we're gonna wait that long just to see if it happens. And I'd like that trail built. I mean, Three Rivers could build the whole thing if they wanted to.
And just advertising to the public, this is just one option, there are many options.
Yeah, and make it clear that
Yeah.
this is an option.
Just one.
This is effectively a starting point.
Yes, this is the starting point that the city council and the Parks Commission and Three Rivers Park District is talking about.
With the focus of the 2029
Yes, yeah, could we highlight, that's the part that's,
East of Vicksburg.
yeah.
So if we were
During
to
the
have
time.
this out during the open house, wouldn't it be good probably to have someone from Three Rivers then?
Someone
Yeah.
there. Though it is pretty clearly marked.
Yeah, just for any questions.
Otherwise, we can give them our
though.
own information.
You've been along as long as, or around as long as I have, I think. You and I go way back to 2016, I think.
2012.
Oh, you beat me then. At
The
least start coming to these.
council would like to have another workshop with the Park Commission to discuss the whole corridor from border to border.
I think so.
Okay.
Before the open house?
No.
No.
The 13th?
I don't think you can get that done anymore.
What time frame are we looking at for that?
Well, I guess the question I have, what questions do you have for staff or Three Rivers that you would like to have answers to before the next workshop?
That's hard to say, we're just seeing this for the first time tonight.
I think we'll digest it yet. Yeah, we'll have to get you those questions.
I think one of the questions that probably needs to be answered sooner rather than later is those two homes there.
Are we okay if these people want to sell? Is the council going to say yes, or do we want to think more before we say yes to these two?
I want to think more.
So I have one small reservation about the plan. I don't know if I'm gonna say this eloquently, so.
Just fire it out.
Just
You don't even
please,
need to sugarcoat it.
I apologize in advance if I don't. I would like to be able to, we don't necessarily need to show your community members this vision, but I think your community members should have an opportunity to weigh in or help create the vision for their community. And certainly, as the council and the park commission, you guys have the full decision-making authority to do that. But I don't know if they really get to weigh in on whether they like this option or whether they want something different if they don't see that. So I'm a little nervous to go to the open house next week and just show them this, when that's not the only option, and there's like 500 options in between without, and I also fully understand why you wouldn't want to show them this because you don't support it. So I'm not sure we're ready yet to do the open house. Because I want to make sure we're all on the same page before we collect community feedback, and I want to make sure when we're collecting community feedback or sharing community feedback that we're doing so with the broader community in mind, and giving them the opportunity to really be engaged. Otherwise, there's really no point in asking them to be engaged if they're, like, what are they weighing in on?
So you would want to do a separate open house once we got our vision
I
sorted out
think
and
so.
then
I
just
think,
open it to the
unfortunately, I
public?
think we kind of have to let next week come and go And certainly we could have an email sign-up sheet and say, hey, Three Rivers and the city are working on trying to figure out the West Mississippi River Regional Trail. If you want to stay engaged or get more information, sign up here, and then when we get our ducks in a row, we'll send you an email.
Because it's this half is coming up in 2029, is there any world in which it makes sense just to show this?
The county just had an open house on that corridor.
Oh, okay.
And so all of those residents had received a mailing and had an opportunity to go and talk about their preferences and priorities. Three Rivers was in attendance just as like tabling and didn't have anything of this detail at all. We just were collecting email addresses of people that wanted to stay engaged because we wanted to give the Parks Commission and the council the opportunity to really think through like what are you supportive of, because we don't want to show something that you wouldn't ultimately approve in the long run, but we also don't want to not give the residents an opportunity to say what they envision for their community.
Yeah, because I get not wanting to show like this half
Yeah.
especially,
So-
but I was just curious about with this, because I don't know, when do plans have to be
They're working on a
solidified?
corridor study, and Jason, maybe you know like the detail of what they're gonna come out with?
We had an information session and we explained we wanted the trail to be a strong component of that, including crossings and other connections. I don't really know what to expect on how detailed it will be. It'll certainly be considered with it. And I think August is when they're
Yeah.
looking at.
As the study completes in August.
Yeah, but that's not their design plans.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they're not going to know the placement of the road for a while. They're just collecting feedback at the moment. Then they're going to incorporate that into the design.
Yeah.
So that's could be a couple of years out before we see the
I
design.
think we still have time to get it right
Mhm.
and to be really thoughtful about our engagement.
Let's say Magic Universe, we decide we want this. If we sent letters to all the residents and said, hey, Three Rivers is willing to buy our house.
We can't afford to do it
Okay.
overnight.
That's what
That's
I'm
why
wondering, your magic pool of money, there is actually a bottom to that magic pool of money?
Yeah, every year there's
Okay.
a cap.
Okay.
And
So-
our board matches it, and so,
Okay,
yeah.
so it couldn't be, you'd rather us not?
We're very strategic about, and we have other commitments across the district.
It's nice to know there's a bottom to that magic pool
I mean,
of
I wish
money.
there wasn't, but, yeah.
And then just a question, probably for the engineer. What does it mean, cut grade for wall close to house?
Is that next to a retaining wall?
There is a wall near it. So there's a there is a retaining wall.
Yeah, I think cut grade just means you need, it would be a cut wall condition rather than a fill wall. So
Okay.
you know, there's an embankment there now that you'd be cutting into.
Got it,
to
got
build
it.
the wall,
Okay, okay.
as opposed to a ditch that you need to fill.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel for all the different, like the
Yeah,
tricky spots.
yeah.
The more you drive it, the more you see. It's not an easy story.
Oh, yeah, no, I
I
have, so.
More public comments
Yeah.
or?
Name,
I'll
address.
just stand here. I just want to add a different perspective to the conversation. Crystal Fashant, 16860 Dayton River Road. I am in this area here, right where we're talking, just a couple doors down from Josh and Tom. I'd ask you all to put yourselves in my shoes, okay? So I don't want to hold back Tom from doing what he needs to do, and I don't want to hold back a park, right? And I think the trail has always sounded lovely to me, right? Having a trail, I can take my kids, it sounds wonderful, okay? But put yourself literally in our shoes in a position where we don't understand what's happening to our literal house tomorrow or 5 years from now. So I've been painstakingly updating my house. We bought a modest home. We bought it in 2011. We put in all the work ourselves. I watched my husband put in a deck, board by board by board, for the last 2 summers. We put in 30-year solar panels because I care about the environment, right? We planted 60 trees from the Laurel Tree Farms on our property because we care that much about the corridor and about the river. We've had various folks out to the riverbank so that we can ensure that we take care of that river properly, as do many of our other neighbors, okay? And so we've put all this into our house, and then you see these plans and it says, well, maybe you'll get it, maybe we'll take your house, maybe we won't. What do I do with that? Do I replace my screen door that I wanted to replace this spring? Or don't I? Is my house gonna be torn down? So I'm just asking for some appreciation for the situation that we're in, that these are real lives. We poured our hearts into this. If my house is bought and taken, sure, it may be fair market value, but I will never buy another house in Dayton again. I won't be able to afford it. I'm being priced out of this community. And so, take my house, fine, but you're taking it for a trail, a bike trail that can actually go by my house. Imagine if that was your house and where you lived, or somebody that you loved. This isn't for a big, giant project, this is a bike trail. And you can get past my house, and so why? Won't you just vote on the trail to go through? Just build the trail. If Tom wants to sell, fine. But don't make me.
So you're supportive of the trail as long as it stays on the road, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
and I think I speak for most of my neighbors, that we've always been supportive of the trail. That's why we haven't spoken up until we started noticing all these properties. Nice houses, I mean, they're affordable houses, they're not the beautiful, houses that we see being built new, but we're seeing them being dismantled, and it's just heartbreaking. This is where we live. This is our home. We do the Dayton River Road National Night Out ice cream, and we have 50 people come. We are a neighborhood. If some people want to sell, fine, but please don't forget us in these conversations. We are here, and we just want to live in this community too. So that's what I ask.
Those new ones are on a quarter acre, by the way.
I think one thing I'll say, because I know you've heard some of the Parks Commission folks say like that, we think this is lovely. I would reiterate, I'm aligned with you on, we are good with people who are willing and not. At least for me personally, I would never be okay with any sort of forcible change to a property. It's amazing that you've made such a great area. I wouldn't want to see those trees in your house torn down either, so, yeah.
I don't really have a problem with the willing part of it, but I don't like the comment, Kelly, that you made. You wanted to go after 7 or 8 more and send them.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I posed a question of if you knew that there's a opportunity in a construction project coming, are you content or happy with that, or do you want to see something else?
Well,
I don't have a preference, or Three Rivers doesn't have a preference on that.
I could go along with letting those 2 go,
Yeah.
but I want a time frame on when that whole trail is going to be
Yeah,
built.
I can't give you that.
Okay.
30 years is a good start. Yeah, Carrie, can you give someone want to say something?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I guess if you don't mind, I guess I didn't plan to talk, but Nathan Neubauer, 16950 Dayton River Road, 3 houses down from Josh, right next to Crystal here. Part of my frustration with all of this is I'm one of those properties identified earlier in your slides that was purchased. I purchased it after this plan was put in place. Now, the guy did pass away prior to me buying it, which I understand, but it seems like when there's a comprehensive plan put in place that's this far out, that was in place prior to me selling, there should have been something tied to the property itself so that I would have been aware of what's going on. I did find out not terribly long after we moved in that, there is going to be a trail. There was talk of it on the other side, it might be on this side, but it would be along the road was all the intent. And I'm not really opposed to a trail at all. I mean, if we're going to do it, I would rather see it next year, because then I could have kids that would get use out of it. Right now, it seems by the time it's put in,
They'll be in college, they won't use the trail anymore.
More farther, yeah. So that's one of my biggest frustrations is now I was in front of planning, I was in front of council several years ago to rezone and block up 8 of our houses to a different zoning so that I could do with the property what I planned to. We moved here with the plan to stay maybe till we died. you know, or until we decided it wasn't worth the maintenance and upkeep and we wanted to hand it on to our kids or whatever, but that's, you know, what was gonna be our decision. And now I'm stuck in the middle of, I did this rezoning, I put a significant investment into the property already, and I'm in the middle of, what do I do with it? Am I okay with what's going on? All of this really could have been avoided had there been a little clearer indication of what's going on. And again, if the trail goes in, great. If all the properties around me start to feel pinched, I'm not going to like that. I mean, I can tell you my wife's, I've been to a lot of these things just to try to keep myself up to date. And now I'm missing nights every other week with my kids, my family. Somebody else is having to take care of different things, engagements that we're already committed to. I had to have somebody come take the kids somewhere else tonight so I could be here, things like that. So it's just, there's frustration there. Again, a park in general is not a bad thing, but I don't want to feel like I don't get to use my property for what I bought it for, or all of a sudden I'm stuck having to decide, is this even going to be what it is? And then I'm looking at interest rates that are double what or more what I paid, and there's more cost to me if I have to, you know, if I decide to be a willing seller, so be it. But it's not just you give us fair market value. There's a lot more cost to me.
At this time, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that changes one day, maybe it doesn't, but, so it's maybe not as elegantly put as some of the other stuff, but it is nice to see some things, we're working towards something. It's just, I'd like to have a little bit more confidence that this isn't a concern I have to deal with in 10 or 15 years, because 10 or 15 years, I want to be well planted and I'm not going anywhere. And now I have to reassess what I decided 4 years ago, which was to be here, to make this the home for the next 30, 40 or more years. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to come back to the three questions on the board. So I'm just checking in again. For the 5 council members, is there support for a trail easement?
Easement,
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Is there support for Three Rivers buying land for willing sellers?
I want a time frame on it. Otherwise we're gonna wait until we can get it all green.
A time frame on?
When the trail is gonna be built.
Okay.
And maybe you guys gotta go back to all the board and find out when that is. 10 years from now. I mean, this part's gonna be, we already know that. When's this part gonna be done?
It's hard.
Excuse me. I'm Jonathan Blaming. I'm the Associate Superintendent for Planning and Design at Three Rivers. The most likely scenario for the trail being built to the end will be tied to the road reconstruction. We don't have the time frame from Hennepin County at this time. So we can't tell you the exact year. But when that road gets rebuilt is likely when the trail in the western section gets rebuilt.
And at that point, you're just gonna go with whatever properties you happen to have.
Right.
So if you have it, you're using it. If you don't have it, you're not gonna use it.
Right.
Okay.
And a rebuild, 25 years? I don't know.
Our trails are reconstructed every 30 years, so.
But that's typically that kind of road.
So you may have a trail along the road for 30 years, and depending on what land you own, it might move.
You can, yeah, that you can be this, let's say we build this tomorrow, and you're still evolving towards this on a willing seller basis. It's fluid. It's
Yep.
not we're locking in on, it doesn't have to be we're locking in on this and that's the only other solution. It could be this is where we are today, but we're gonna keep our options open on that willing seller basis, and then over time, as things evolve and as acquisitions happen on a willing seller basis, and we're reconstructing or doing significant maintenance, you can make those adjustments.
How does Three Rivers acquire their money for trails?
That was what we just talked about. We have our own pot of money for acquisition, which comes through tax.
Oh, the trail.
No, I want
Not
trails,
the
not
acquisition.
acquisition.
Oh, construction money.
Construction
yes.
money.
A lot of grants,
Okay,
legacy money, and our own bonding capacity and tax revenue. Did I miss anything?
Hennepin County grants.
Hennepin County grants as well, some grants. Grants from the county, the Met Council, federal grants, state grants.
Yep.
So when you said a minute ago, a reconstruction, you're talking about this part, right? And you're
Yeah.
talking about in 2050, 2060-ish?
Well, I think it would be before that,
Well,
but
it's gonna be well before that.
You think you'll have?
And what I was
Dayton Road?
hearing was in
Yeah.
about 10 years. I don't know if that's true anymore,
Why
but
would
I
they?
heard that this road was gonna get rebuilt.
They haven't indicated with any of our discussions anything west of Vicksburg.
Okay.
So I don't know a timeline. It's beyond 10 years is all I can say, because that's as far as they document.
Okay.
And therein lies the problem, because we got all kinds of squeezes for the county for money.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, regardless of anything we say here today, from Vicksburg here is probably not gonna be built for 10 years. Is that fair to say?
we at least don't have plans for that. But Three Rivers operates really in an opportunistic basis. So if suddenly,
Money fell from the sky.
yeah, or all of a sudden it's like, hey, you guys are doing work, we're doing work, there's an intersection improvement. We can be most efficient and effective with our money if we move now. Our board has been really accommodating to those requests.
What's the minimum amount you would put in opportunistically? Like,
Well, we worked
Does
with
it
the
have to
city at
connect to a
Elsie
larger-
Stevens and at Cloquet to do 1,000 feet at a time. We've just asked in those scenarios that the county, or excuse me, the city take on the O&M until it really serves a regional significance.
okay.
Because we don't,
That's right.
we're really just not organized to send maintenance out and do
One, two,
1,000
So
feet
you wouldn't
at a
build
time.
them landlocked unless we wanted to, and then you just pay us
Yeah,
back
if you
what it was
guys had
connected. Sure.
a bigger plan and we're just a piece of it. But if, like, let's say we were looking, like, we've got let's look at this one. Like, through this area, there's a lot of opportunity, just getting a couple more parcels. That could be really awesome. And we already have parkland that we know there is parking, or you guys want to add parking. Great. Let's think about, is there loops? And we're paying, maybe we're not paying for the whole loop, but we're paying for the part of the loop that's the regional trail, and you guys are doing the loop part that serves the local piece, just like we did at Elsie Stevens. So again, it's not an all or none, but you just have to figure out what makes sense in each one of those scenarios.
Then what are you doing with these lots that are otherwise just sitting vacant that you own?
They're
and
just
someone
gonna-
lives next to
They're
it,
just
but
sitting vacant.
some maintenance being done to make sure there's invasive species being taken care of and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
actually,
so-
we are doing a lot of tree planting this coming summer.
Okay.
And then natural resource stuff does do all the, like, invasive species stuff. But you're gonna see tree planting on several of the parcels that we've already acquired. And the piece next to Gooden Park, they've already planted over 60 trees in previous years. And I think we've got some inquiries or conversations starting to happen or will be happening with the city as well, or Marty, maybe they've already happened, to see if we could help with some tree work at Elsie Stevens along the regional trail corridor.
We haven't really discussed that just yet, but yeah.
We've been trying to figure out how we can be a partner since the city rejected the bids on the tree work, and that's something that we could be.
And that would be part of the master plan that we're gonna pull together. We want to put
Yeah.
the trees in the right place.
Yeah, so the trail is already built through Elsie Stevens and Cloquet Park. We have some opportunity to do some trail, or some tree planting along trail corridors, and if it works out, that's an opportunity that we can do some investments and hopefully help you guys out, because we know that was something that you had flagged you wanted to do, but we're not sure the timing's gonna pan out perfect. Okay, this was really good.
I don't feel like we have all the answers, though, that we're
We
looking
might not.
for.
I don't think you're gonna get them.
Okay. No.
Just for the record, I'm okay at this point for the two current people who have requested. I would be okay saying yes to those at this point, and a hold on the rest until we finish this plan, but that's just again, I'm one of five, so.
Are there questions the other four council has before having a consensus of whether or not agreeing to the sale for those two parcels? questions that you'd like that would help you make a decision?
I'm speaking for myself, but I'm a no until we have more detail on this plan.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
On the trail alignment, or trail alignment options?
For the two properties that are there,
Yes.
I would urge you to all shop.
Until we have some preliminary discussions, I don't know that I'm
Okay, and Scott and
okay
Stephanie?
with it.
Can you put a timeline on that, Mr. Mark? Because just saying until, I'm not trying to beat you up, Dennis,
Yeah.
until we figure this out doesn't really give anybody any indication of how long that is.
I think-
Like, I like a hard deadline of,
Black and white.
kind of, put it in the box.
Yep.
I like
I think when we meet again and discuss, we could answer that question then.
So in 2 weeks or 4 weeks?
Yeah, like how
Whenever we can get together.
Okay,
More sessions.
so part of it, is it just a question of finding a time to meet, or are you going to have questions that you would like answers to?
I will probably have questions.
Okay,
So not
Yeah,
Tuesday.
right.
Yeah. Now, unless you three are there, then, you know,
Hey, how much time do you need to formulate questions? So, I mean, from our perspective, are we planning for a workshop in a month from now, or
Oh.
2 months from now?
I don't think 2 months. No.
I feel like that's too long to make these landowners sit on that for us to
Okay.
decide what we're doing, have that session, and then there's like, you know what I mean, there's so much more that has to happen. I feel like that's too long.
Is a week reasonable to come up with questions?
A week to give you questions,
Yes.
or a week to give you questions and have you come back with them?
It depends on the depth of the question you have. So I would say a week to come up with questions
I'm
for.
trying,
Where are you at with the two properties?
I don't really have a problem with it. My whole problem comes back with, if we work here, I want to work in other areas. And we're going to be needing 2 roundabouts over on Fernbrook Lane. Not today, but yesterday, realistically. And right now, there's a line in the sand that you are not getting 1 inch of parkland to do it.
We worked with you on the roundabout at Pineview.
I understand that part,
Why would we not do the same?
because when what's there now was put in, that's the question that was given.
Yep.
You're not getting any of it.
Where are you?
So that
Two.
was a long,
Are you
long
okay
time
with the
ago.
two?
Not that terribly
Pineview
long.
was only a few years ago, right? So things have changed.
Okay.
Let's keep an open mind.
I-
Let's figure out how to work together.
Hey, I have no problem with it.
Why are you gonna hurt someone?
because I don't think we really, in one hand, I don't think we really get to say what people do with their land. In one hand, like, you own it, it's yours. If your plan is to sell it because you can't, or you don't want to take care of it, you can't do whatever it is, like, you kind of have the right to sell it, and you have the right to sell whoever you want to sell it to, and I can respect the fact of wanting it to be something more than just someone else living in it. Maybe you do really value the parks and the trails, and like, that's important to you, and I don't know who we are to stand in between that. On the flip side of that, I don't know that my vision, or any of our vision, is the far one where you own everything. So like, again, this is me just talking out loud, but is there a way to limit the amount, the percentage, the parcels, the number, something of how total parcels that the rivers can purchase
So
for?
I think that's where we would get to.
That's where we're going to.
The
Okay, so
immediate
then,
question is those two, and to be honest, I think what he's saying is the land is unsellable.
I hear you. And so,
And I get that. I think it'd be okay. I know nothing about that property.
I don't know anything about that either.
I don't know that it's unsellable, but you'd have to do a lot of repairs to
Yeah.
make it up to code.
That is this
And they're
one.
just gonna
That's
rip it
that
down
one.
anyway, so.
This one, I don't think this person is here today. So,
They spoke previously.
okay. Oh, that's right. They were at the last meeting, and they,
Yeah.
that's.
Oh, was it the mother-in-law?
Yeah, someone
Yeah.
died. Someone passed
That was,
away.
yeah,
So-
that's a situational problem. This
Yes.
has got structural.
That's structural. Yes.
I
I don't know that
get
it
okay with
matters to
I
me
tell you
why
what.
you're selling
We
it.
can't really say yes to one and no to the other.
Correct.
It's awkward.
I'm just saying, like, again, who are we to tell you what you can and can't do? But like, moving forward, my thought would be to talk more about how we limit.
Would it be fair to
Tell you
say
what,
yes?
I'm gonna speed this up because
Speed it up,
I'm
please.
willing to sell them to
and I'm willing to tell them.
And you won't get another one until we talk about it.
But see, we said that last time.
We did, that's part of the thing too.
Now you're
is that,
discussing
like-
it on
But
an
now
ad
we're
hoc basis,
here.
right?
This
And
is
if it
more
was
progress
crazy,
than
maybe you'd say
made
no.
in ages.
And you're not talking to
You're naturally limited
anyone
this way.
else,
Okay.
correct,
We are
right now?
not talking to anybody else, and
Speed it
we
up.
don't outreach to your
Speed it up.
residents.
No, I don't think you do. Okay, done, yeah.
I just
Okay.
You
did.
got 2 votes.
You got 3 votes.
You got your, all right, so those two.
Tom, you're in.
But is this an official city council meeting?
No.
Well,
we will
No,
not.
but.
No.
We'll have to come back,
No,
about they'll know.
she's
that
got
we-
direction.
Council give direction, you
Yes.
can't make a decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
That's the direction we're giving.
That's basically giving our word that we'll be okay with it.
Yes.
And then this gives us time to noodle on the rest of it, to come to questions. This is what we want to know. Are there parcels? And I think it is, these maps are very helpful for me to see where your deal breakers are, but also to see where, even in your perfect world, you don't go off the road very far, so then
Yeah.
don't go
Those
off.
other
yeah.
parcels that they'd like to
We can be
acquire, we don't need
opportunistic
to
in
have
keeping
them.
them.
Yeah,
That's right.
yes. And that, so it was helpful for me to see both extremes.
Yeah.
And then together we can come to a middle territory.
Yep, we'll leave both these, we'll leave all the trace if it's helpful,
I think it is.
Yep, you got this.
and that they'll just tell a story, we're not tied to any of those stories.
I think it is helpful if you're there to tell people, this is just a line on the map, and it's on the road right now.
Well, they've
We're
asked
just
this
keeping
not to
this
be, this is
here.
just for us.
Oh, I mean,
not-
I'm talking for next week.
Yeah, but she's saying they don't want.
They don't want it next
Oh,
week.
you don't want to do that?
No.
That makes
Not-
me,
not-
that makes me feel like there's something else
No,
coming.
I
Something
just-
you're not telling me.
Nope, I just wanted,
You don't want to have one option and not more than one.
That's where you get the confusion of, it was this, is it that, I saw this, there was a map.
Unless we're bringing out all of those and having you, like, every 5 minutes go through them
and I,
with 20 people.
I guess if you are asking your community members to be engaged and have an opinion, and then if you really, but then you should use their opinion and what they share, their feedback in your decision making, right? And I'm not sure what I'm telling them if I share this, or what I'm asking them about.
What you're telling them is you're going to build along the road for that half mile.
So that would require, I think, very clear decision-making or direction from the council, which I don't know if I have that's saying you're doing this. That would come, and I guess I'm not here, I can't tell you how to run your meetings or what's
Right.
allowed or not.
Well, as far as I'm
Understand.
concerned, you can have those 2 parcels, and that's the end of it, and you build that.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, this is going off what you said. How do you, so let's say you come to the open house, you put this map up like Scott's saying, and you say this is what the tentative plan is. People walk by, they say looks great, sounds good, and then they walk away. Like, how are you gating that feedback then, right? Like, you're getting feedback from people that are talking to you and saying, oh, I like your map, this looks really nice, I'd like this trail. And then you come back to us and say, oh yeah, everybody loves it. And then we beat you up again and we say, oh, well, we don't like this, this, and this. Like, that's not a really great feedback loop. I guess it's like I'm agreeing with you, I think. Like, it's not a great feedback loop for you or for us because
Or
there
your
really
residents.
isn't. Yeah, there really isn't any formal way of knowing what
There's
the
a-
feedback
so
was.
there's, oh, I'm sorry. There's a spectrum of engagement, and part of it is just telling your residents, this is what we're doing. So if the council has decided.
Well, we're not
and
doing
our
that.
board has decided, this is what we're doing, because it's our money, so our board still has a little stake in the game. This is what we're doing. Then we could go to the open house next week and say, this is what we're doing. But we're not there. I think, at least based on what I thought I had heard at previous discussions, is that you are interested in what your broader community is interested, or what they would like, as well as each one of these residents. And you want to know who might be interested in selling an easement or other, or what their concerns are. And so then you're having a conversation and you're learning, and we're bringing that feedback back.
Could one thing be, not the maps, but listing of possible, like, are you interested in a bike trail? Are you interested in fishing? Are you interested in kayak? Are there key features that it would be worth asking our residents?
I think
Or we're
we
not there
can do
yet?
that, I just don't know if we need to rush to do it at your open house next week. And
No, you're
I
getting
would
way over
rather
depth
make
then.
sure that we're doing it right and getting it right the first time.
That's it.
So the council's kind of made the commitment, every couple of years, we're going to do a community opinion survey. And that could be a section of the next one.
When's that next one, Joe?
2026.
Oh, we may have one, yeah,
Sooner.
sooner. There's been a couple issues that I think would be beneficial, but we'll see.
And by Tuesday, the 13th, the council will provide questions for staff to do research on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate everyone's time and your thoughtful comments and discussion. Including yours.
Is there an asterisk to that one?
The bark is not as bad as.
No.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you want us to stay on here for the next part, or?
I'll get back. That should be recorded easily.
All right, resume your seats.
Oh yeah, we're not done.
We're done, you're done.
Want this rolled up now, or just leave it? Roll it up. Roll it up?
Yeah, keep rolling, sir.
That was lively.
Yeah. These maps are cool. I'm kind of geeking out on those.
I know, yeah, it's super fun.
I stood up too long.
I know, that's why I eventually sat down. I was gonna propose that we all sit down for the discussion, but everyone kept standing, and so then I just slowly started to sit down.
See, I feel like we're going to sing after we do the pledge, because the Lions meetings, we sing a song after the pledge. So I'm always like, nope, sit down here. You don't have to sing. Maybe that'd be a good thing to add to our procedures, though.
To sing?
Add a song.
We'll give Marty a minute to clear the house.
My stuff is over here.
Definitely helpful to have residents though.
Yeah, that was nice, because like
All right, Dave.
Thank you, Marty.
we don't get that feedback that they make the decisions
All right.
on, so it's like...
We'll go back to the regular meeting here. Lisa Stephen, Master Plan Steering Committee, Park Commission Representative. Marty.
So I'm looking for somebody to sit on the steering committee for the park redesign that we're doing at Elsie Stevens, working with MSA. We're going to have a council member on there. I'm not sure who that's going to be, but we're going to have one member from each commission, 2 staff members. I think that's it at the moment.
How often does it meet?
EDA also.
That's what I said.
I know you put out the dates, but I forget.
EDA is a commission. Yeah. But yeah, I thought I'd put something in the packet about the...
You very well.
It was in an email.
Yeah, it wasn't
I
an
don't
email,
think it's
but
in
I didn't put it in the packet. So I think there's a meeting on May 20th. I think it's a commitment of 3 meetings, I believe.
Yeah, I got it right here.
3 meetings
Do you
for
want me to read it
2025.
out?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So, meeting in mid-May as an ideas meeting to discuss the various committee members' visions for the park. Second meeting in July/August for concept development, and then a master plan review in October.
But then you think that the mid-May is already set?
They're trying to do May 20th if
May
we
20th.
can.
How long are the meetings? Hour, 3 hours?
There is no deal.
Yeah.
It's-
It takes...
I think the
takes as long
first
as it
one's the
takes.
longest one.
Yeah, I don't have a time frame for the meetings. It depends what's on there and what's the discussion, you know?
Does any member of the Parks Commission want to volunteer for these 3
So,
meetings?
in Brad's
Unknown
absence-
Durancy.
In Brad's
Very
absence, he said he could do it if nobody else wants to do it.
I'd also be interested if nobody else is. It's up to-
Sounds like you're interested and Brad is just willing. That's why I'm hearing that,
I
but
like
Brad's
that.
not here.
If no one else is jumping at the, what's the phrase?
Chomping at the bit.
Chomping at the bit, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I am interested in it, but my term's up in July, and I've turned in
We
an
still respect your
application.
opinion.
But I wouldn't be there to
Right,
finish the
yeah.
whole thing if I don't get.
Oh,
Sure.
I gotcha.
Like
I was kind of in the same boat, like,
But it doesn't mean that
right, might
I'll
not get
get
picked.
appointed. And so I just don't want to join
Right.
something and
Like
then
something
not be
you
able
may
to
not be able to see
fulfill it.
through, you're not in control of that. I was in
Yeah.
the same boat.
Can we have a first and a second? Can we have two people join and,
I
or just prefer one?
just prefer one because then they're committed to it. I don't think, you want to keep the consistency going with them.
Understandable, but
And this
Just-
person
it's just
obviously
streaming.
would represent everyone on the commission, and so during our meetings, they can share what's been
There'll be feedback,
discussed, gather feedback, and then,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that it will be inclusive of everybody, and then there's going to be there's a steering committee, and then a community committee. There's going to be some general people from business and various other things, neighborhoods, maybe Magnus Foundation, that kind of thing. That
Sure.
we're going to reach out to.
Lions? Lions? The Lions Club would probably be interested.
No, I don't think
I mean, sell beer there.
All right, so our
Good
volunteer
tomatoes, good
Kai.
ideas.
Kaya, yep,
Kai, sorry.
it's okay.
Okay. All right.
Does that have to be
Fantastic.
voted on or anything? Or?
Well, you should vote.
All in favor
you for
of
it.
Kaya volunteering to be a part of the Elise Stevens Master Plan Steering Committee and say aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
Vote for myself. I have to abstain. Okay.
All right. Motion passes.
Okay. Next Park Commission meeting Tuesday, June 3rd.
Cool.
Cool. Right.
Fantastic.
Non-stop
And-
fun.
May 20th is, will you send me
Yeah.
Get an email.
something? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, they don't have a time yet or nothing, so.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, can I get an idea who's going to be there next week on the 14th? I know you're going to be gone.
I believe
open house.
I'm planning to be there as
You're going to
a
wear two hats or?
Parks.
Okay.
Is my plan.
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll let this finish and then I want to add
Literally the
something.
one night I can't. I have a work thing that I
Okay.
can't
Thank
get
you,
out.
John.
You need some commitment.
It's
I
like,
will be there as well.
we have a conference once a year, and it just so happens to go into the night, that one night.
Fantastic. Does anybody else have anything before we?
Yes, Leathers Park. Saw some action yesterday or the day before.
Nice.
Do you know if they seeded?
They haven't seen
Okay,
it
I
yet.
didn't
They,
think so, but I don't know what that looks like, I guess, so.
So they worked the ground over. I think they sprayed some stuff on there, some herbicide.
Okay,
They're going to leave that on there for 2 weeks, see what happens
Cool.
there. Hopefully the crabgrass is
Stays
gonna be
down.
back.
Sunflowers.
If they need to redo it, they'll put something else on there,
Cool.
and then they'll seed it after that, 10 days after the second application. So hopefully by the end of May, we should have seed in the ground there.
Cool.
And the signs are out as well.
yes, I saw that, appreciate that. Hopefully the couple of neighbors who cut through there in their four-wheelers will know that it's not just a open lot anymore. And I wanted to add, I discovered a park I didn't know about, driving home from Maple Grove on like Holly Lane, down by King Solutions. There's like a little parkland that must have been dedicated as part of the industrial. It's just like a trail
It's
through the
a little
woods.
trail around
Yep.
the
Yeah.
storm pond there,
That
yeah.
was just cool. Another park. That's all I had. Well, thank you. Cleanup day was great. I got rid of stuff.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Anything? All right. I will call a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
Fantastic. All in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.